Okay, greetings, brothers and sisters. Saturday, January 10th, 2026. So I'm going to release this video today, which was supposed to take today off, but I'll take Sunday off. There's new evidence. There's a new video that is the wife of the woman shot, and the cop is taping, and the whole thing seems like such a psyop. They roll out these information packages day in and on consecutive days, keep the story going. I'll talk about that upcoming in this video. I wasn't really going to cover that as much today, but they dropped that bombshell video, and somehow there's a debate whether this is self-defense or not for the cop, for the thug in this thing, which is great. You know, and I'll cover that in a bit. And I got a bunch of other stuff here that's like funny stuff, weird stuff. One of my viewers sent me this morning. Craigslist, Minneapolis, Minnesota, 2007 Honda Pilot used, 500 or best offer. Selling my sister's used 2007 Honda Pilot maroon, 2 bullet holes in the windshield and some damage in the front. Selling as is for 500 or best offer, referred to a Somali family in need. It's what she would have wanted. Now, this is the car. You can see the bullet holes there. Here they are, right here. If you're not, right, where her head was. Now, I wondered if this is a joke. I don't know how this could be possible, because this was in a crime just 3 days ago, and I'm pretty sure the police wouldn't be releasing this, or whoever is supposedly investigating. Like, this is, I mean, they released this car already, right? You know, like, it's just kind of fucked up if this is true. But if it isn't true, Somalia is one of the most violent places. The Somalian pirates, they live in really bad poverty. It's a fucking nightmare of a place. Where, if you ever heard that, there's a rapper, I forget his name, doesn't matter. He did a thing on Austin City Limits. I watched it years ago, and his raps are pretty sad. They're different kind of rap music, and he talks about what it's like to grow up in Somalia, and it talks, it's like a hellhole. It's one of those just bad places, and I don't know if they have natural resources or not, or just, it's just things have gone south. But a lot of those places in Africa, very violent. A lot of, there's guns are like run rampant, like Bad Max style. So selling this thing to a Somalian family, they think they're doing them a favor by giving them a deal on a car with bullet holes in it. It's involved in a like this shootout thing. But anyways, I'm going to cover this more. I got a kind of a funny voiceover about some comment that I had to do in the beginning of the video, and then we get into this stuff, and then there's an Erika Kirk sighting and some other shit that happened, like a Erika Franze sighting. There's always something going on. All right, let's get into it here. Greetings, brothers and sisters. Today is Friday, January 9th. This is a video where I've already done a greeting, so this will be a 2 greetings. I just wanted to cover this one quick comment because it's just so priceless. And the person, this is Don Rowe Doctrine, Why Does God Hate Candace Owens, by sending Mitch as the answer. And the person said, you calling someone the grifter is like calling the kettle black. Have some self-awareness. Just an excellent comment. On every fucking level. So, just contrived with the someone calling the kettle black. It is like calling the kettle black. It's the pot is calling the kettle black, and they're both black, right? which is just a fucking contrived old stupid saying. It's not funny. And, you can't come up with something original. But the problem here is the use of the word grifter. Because no one would ever say, I'm a grifter. Like, in what way am I a fucking grifter? So, for example, I didn't sell merch forever. And my viewers, many of them said, oh, you should sell merch, you should sell merch. I mean, people were asking for merch. I have a lot of great sayings or, whatever it is. People quote things back to me that I've said that they would like to see on merch. Like people say, quote a line for me and say, oh, that would be great on merch, right? So it took me forever. I was supposed to get help from my daughter and my wife, and my wife eventually found this one site that was one of the few ones that YouTube allowed to post to store. And, it was one of the most popular sites. And I sold what for me was going to be $1,800. So, I put together some t-shirts or whatever it was. And over a period of a year, mostly in the beginning when I released it, I would have made $1,800. I asked them for a payment, and they never gave it to me. And then after a lot of bullshit, they told me that their company had been sold to another group of owners, and they weren't honoring the payments owed. So they just fucking stole $1,800. So I got zero money from my merch, right? I bought some of it myself, so I actually lost money. And so, I'm not a good businessman. I'm not a fucking, any of those things. I'm not a very material person. I don't have some, so being a grifter, like, in what way am I a fucking grifter, right? Like, just, compared to Trump or Erika Kirk, where they're making hundreds of millions of dollars and Trump billions of dollars and Candace Owens, every one of these people, like, they're actual grifters or they're spreading false bullshit. The other thing I do is I piss people off. I tell people what they don't want to hear, push people away, all the things that are qualities of a good grifter, right? And so I was thinking that this person didn't know what fucking grifter meant because of the whole comment. It sounds kind of retarded. You calling someone the grifter. I didn't call someone the grifter. It's not like this fucking is a supervillain that fights Batman. Oh, look, it's the grifter. Like some old Batman TV show where they go pow and wow and, fucking bam and those things like the old fashioned, Batman show. You calling someone the grifter is like calling the kettle black. That's, if the kettle was black, right, then it wouldn't be, an issue, right? So, like me calling someone the grifter, which is not what I did, I called them a grifter, is exactly like calling a black kettle black, because a grifter is a grifter and a black kettle is black, right? So they left out the pot. The pot calling the kettle black is the pot's insulting the kettle in some way. And again, it sounds almost like some kind of a racist kind of thing. Why is the pot so racist or self-hating? But it's hypocrisy. And so the person just fucking botched that whole thing. I don't think they know what the word grifter means. It's very easy to look a word up if you're going to use it. Like, you want people to hear what you want to say. And you're kind of getting me, you're trying to zing me here. And then have some self-awareness. Dude, you just wrote this comment. It's 2 lines and you're, it's completely retarded. And you're telling me to have self-awareness. And there was another comment where the person said, I didn't copy it, but they basically said, God doesn't hate. The title of my video is Dino Doctrine, Why Does God Hate Candace, by sending Mitch as the answer. And, I've talked about how God doesn't have a mind and a personality because, that's the truth and it's the belief it's the definition in the Sajmark teaching. So God doesn't hate, but it's a fucking joke, right? The joke is that Candace Owens asked God to send her a fucking, if you watch the video, send her a legitimate clue, right? Or send her something legitimate in terms of real evidence instead of this Egyptian plane bullshit. And the answer to her prayers was Mitch Snow. So God hates Candace Owens, right? That's the kind of thing a hateful person would do. If you ask them for something and you give you the worst possible version of that thing, the opposite of that thing, as far away from that thing as it's like if you ask God for a glass of water and God gave the person an endless desert, right? or a cup full of sand or whatever it is. Like that's the joke here, that God gave her the exact opposite of something legitimate. Anyways, bunch of stuff to get into. Let's get into it here. Actually, I didn't shit on the first person enough. Let me go back to this comment again. You calling someone the grifter is like calling the kettle black. Have some self-awareness. Your whole comment is based, your whole premise is based in you knowing what the word grifter means, right? Everything's built around grifter. That I use the word grifter and you're calling me a hypocrite. Like, that's your whole concept here. And so it's imperative that you understand what the word grifter is. Like, if you're going to build your whole comment and your whole point of view around a word and you have no idea what that fucking word means, then there's a problem there, right? It's like if you substitute the word applesauce and the person didn't know what applesauce meant and they said, you calling someone the applesauce is like calling the kettle black. Have some self-awareness. Or any number of words that the person has no idea what it means, and they build their whole premise around it. Like, just all you had to do was ask your phone for a definition of the word, and then you would see if that word actually applied to me before trying to call me a hypocrite, right? Obviously, you're a Trump fan and you're butthurt, so like you're trying to like release the butthurtness, right? People get emotionally upset by what you believe. The other thing is, in terms of me being a grifter, I have zero influence on anything or anybody. Like, I have no power, I'm not in a position of power. I don't have, there's some people, there's about 5,000 people a day watch my videos. Maybe it's more than that. I don't know what the average view per day is. But, the average view for my videos is between 4,000 and 5,000 views lately. It's been less and more at times, but even when it was like 50,000 views a day and at different times, I had almost no influence over my audience decision to do anything, right? And don't exert it. Like, I don't offer advice. I don't shill for anything or anybody. I don't pitch for anything. I talk about people connecting to the divinity within them, which is a good thing and a thing that everyone should be doing. And almost no one does. I've had maybe, the number of times I've mentioned that in the thousands upon thousands of videos that I do, and all the times I've talked about that and doing the meditation, and maybe 1,000 people have tried the meditation. And maybe of those 1,000, there are about 20, 30, 40, 50 people still doing it. So it's, very small amount. And that meditation has influence in terms of those people's connection to the divinity within them, and maybe influence in terms of the material world through, whatever happens in that process that influences the material world. So there's something there, but it's almost negligible, right? In terms of their soul relationship, sure. In terms of maybe their decision making. But no one really has influence over the world for that matter. But I have far less than Candace Owens, Trump, and whoever this person's upset about. Those people have a much wider audience. And, they're using that audience to gain fame and fortune and whatever else, power for themselves, which I'm not doing. And so, like, this is a real head scratcher. It's like a dumb fuckathon out there, and it's sad to see. It's depressing. Like, if you're going to leave a dumb fuck comment, just go do it somewhere else. I don't need to see it. Like, I understand there are lots of dumb fucks out there. You don't have to, like, add to the evidence. It's not imperative. It just becomes overkill, and it's just, it just makes me sad. It makes me sad there's a bunch of butthurt Trumpers out there bumping into shit and, like, unable to function and, trying to, like, drink by pouring water into their ear and shit like that. All right, so let's get into the other stuff here. Greetings, brothers and sisters. I said it. Shabbat shalom. She got the fucking crazy eyes and her like intense stare. Today is Friday, January 9th. I'm going to begin with this stuff about Israel just because there was a video that came up, a 7-minute advertising video. They were giving me the opportunity to support Israel through their small businesses. I was getting the opportunity. They were giving it to me, the Facebook. So the video was going to disappear, so I already did that clip coming up, and I have one more meme here. Meet the new president of Venezuela. And so, you know, they got you. And so now I have this one clip I'm going to show you. And then I think I might even start off with a voiceover. I had this one comment I want to do. Just like one little comment. I think I'll go back and do that. And then I have a bunch of different things to get to before I get back to the stuff with the shooting. And I don't know how much I'm going to cover that, but it's the biggest story right now. This video isn't going up till Sunday, so, you know, I'm just getting it started today. Okay, this is the latest ad that just came up. I want to grab it before it disappears on Facebook.
If buying something small, have you ever wondered if buying something small could truly keep Israel alive?
No, I've never wondered that at all. What accent do you have, right? Are you Danish or something? Are you some kind of European? I don't know. Sounds like a European accent, like a Swedish or Danish. I've never wondered that at all. Not even remotely. I've never thought about keeping Israel alive at all. I never thought about destroying Israel. Well, you know, now that's something that's just out there anyway, but I don't really care about this, but I've never thought that if I bought something small, somehow I'd be able to keep Israel alive. You mean our tax dollars just aren't enough? Our fucking trillions of dollars of tax, trillions of dollars in tax revenue isn't enough to keep Israel going?
Right now, small and family-owned Israeli businesses are under enormous pressure from boycotts, from financial insecurity, even fear.
Even fear? They have fear?
Around the world, Israel is attacked, and not just with words, but with action.
With actions, it's being attacked. Fucking Israel. Oh my God. You know, they just didn't commit a fucking genocide, right? Like they just didn't. They're not just involved in a genocide and an ethnic cleansing in Gaza Strip, and they just didn't go in there and demolish every fucking building. Every building they demolished with, you know, bombs or whatever it is that they did, you know, controlled demolition. I mean, that's like completely fucked in a 2-year period. It's like they dropped a big giant bomb, but one at a time, right?
That destroy trade opportunities and hope. But
no way.
Today, you have an opportunity.
I have an opportunity? You're giving me an opportunity? What opportunity am I getting?
To reach across the world and really help Israel right from...
Wait, it's an opportunity for me to help Israel from my own home by giving them my fucking semi-hard-earned dollars? Like whatever this is, like if you want to call this hard. You know, I'm slaving away here making videos, and you want me to give my hard-earned money? I mean, it's an opportunity for me to give my hard-earned money to Israel? Wow, what an opportunity.
Your own home. Hi, I'm Rifki, and I represent Lev Ha'olam here in Israel.
Hey, Rifki. What opportunities do you have for me?
We're a small team that send out monthly packages filled with amazing Israeli products.
No way.
These boxes that we send are filled with one-of-a-kind items.
No way. What kind? One-of-a-kind?
Produced by small family businesses right here in Israel.
No way. Fucking Israeli products?
They're filled with the most gorgeous products that are inspired.
I mean, look at that. Look at fucking this clay leaf. I mean, I've been looking for a clay leaf just like that. I was like, holy shit, where can I get a gray clay leaf from Israel? Like, how can I make that? What an opportunity for me to get this wonderful gray leaf.
By the land, and they're not mass-produced in big factories and big businesses. No, these are...
So they're overpriced then, right? So wait, you don't have slave shops over there? So they're overpriced, and then the shipping. So I'll be getting fucked, like, you know, on manufacturing and shipping. Sounds like a great opportunity.
Small businesses, each product is touched by real hands here.
Wait, I get products that are touched by Israeli hands? Like, holy shit. Does it not make it like Shalom Shabbat? Shabbat Shalom? Are they Shabbat Shalom? Are these products Shabbat Shalom?
Israel. And your support helps families, mothers, fathers, and entire communities here in Israel.
Wow, and there's, you know, like I said, our tax dollars, I mean, our tax dollars are obviously not enough.
Let me tell you why this matters so much
The barbed wire. Look at the barbed wire.
right now. Israel has so many enemies.
So many enemies they have, and they've done nothing to fucking make that the reality. They've done nothing from their end to make enemies. Look.
And not just the ones you see on the news, but economic boycotts, international pressure.
So many enemies out there. Just so many fucking people, like the UN that created Israel so many years ago, when they partitioned what was then called Palestine, and said, hey, half of this, the good part is going to be Israel, even though they have 1/3 of the people are Jewish. Let's just give them all the good land. Hey, you Palestinian fucks, get out of your homes, because now Jewish people get to move in there. And when that happened, when the UN did that, somehow now the UN is your enemy. That's weird that that's happened over the years.
Make it so much harder for our people to survive. Small family-owned businesses are the beating heart of Israel.
And why would I support small businesses that are imploding here in America, that are the heart of America? All these small businesses, mom and pop shops that are going tits up left and right. Why would I support the American ones when I could give my semi-hard-earned cash to some country that already is parasitic in the relationship with America?
And they provide work, food, strength, hope to entire communities. When those people cannot sell their goods because so many stores and countries refuse Israeli products.
Maybe you should change the way you do things, right? Maybe you should say, hey, this might have something to do with us. I'm just throwing this out there. Don't say that you're just this victim for people and countries because, everyone just hates you because you killed Jesus or whatever, whatever the reasoning is that the people don't like you. Maybe there's something you're doing right now, like what you're doing in the Gaza Strip and all the rest of the things that you've done over the years that has caused some issues in that area. Not that, the other side is better than you and they don't have their fucking issues too, the Muslims and these other people. But maybe this 5,000-year-old beef, 3,000-year-old beef between you and the Muslims, maybe that could be something you guys take a look at. How can we, work out something here? But I think, my buying this clay leaf isn't going to solve that problem.
Then their futures, their families, they're at risk.
No way. They're at risk?
If you love Israel,
I don't.
this is the moment that it needs you the most.
Wow. Right now, it's we don't like to come back and keep on asking you guys for more shit.
Because every business, every family helped by Lev Ha'olam is hope, life, and dignity for an Israeli family.
Boom. All right. This goes on for another fucking here. Let's go to the end here.
This box is packed with so much love and care,
I don't think it's got packed with love.
and it is shipped from our warehouse
A warehouse.
just outside of Jerusalem.
Oh, it's near Jerusalem. Holy shit. Then is there Jesus dust in there?
Directly to your house.
I bet there's Jesus dust.
So if you've ever wondered, what can I really do to help Israel
Yeah, I never wondered that.
today? This is your way. Subscribe today, and every month your kindness will turn into action. Your impact will grow, and Israel will feel your love.
Israel will feel my love when they're humping that wall. Humping the wall.
Just click to get started and discover what incredible good you can do every month, one surprise box at a time.
One surprise box at a time. Bring in fucking love.
Thank you for standing with Israel.
You're welcome.
You are keeping our spirit and hope alive.
Boom. Lev Halom, sharing love from Israel. All right, that was just wonderful. 50% off the first month, first box. Discover the true taste of Israel. Okay, so I missed something here. I'm editing my it's Saturday, January 10th. Discover the true taste of Israel. How many Israeli restaurants have you seen? there's delis, right? There's delis, but like the delis are often Americanized food. Like if you go to like a Jewish deli, and the the challah bread or whatever how you would pronounce it is good bread. They have some quality things, but there's not a lot of Israeli restaurants, Jewish restaurants, right? When I was a kid, you had a lot of Jewish friends. There was 40% of the people in my town were Jewish, and I had a number of best friends when I was like a little kid that were Jewish, and I went over some of their houses and I ate like matzo ball soup and matzah. It was okay, but I mean it's not, it wasn't like I can't wait to eat that again kind of thing, right? So it's hilarious they're saying the taste of Israel because there's all these foreign restaurants like you used to find, Italian food, Indian food, French food, all kinds of various, Middle Eastern foods, right? Greek food, and all kinds of different European foods. People from all over the world, Thai food, these types of things, right? You see these restaurants, Vietnamese food, but how many times have you seen a Jewish restaurant other than like a deli or, like a bakery or something? And usually those are like specific to, it's not the kind of food that they would eat in Israel. And I'm not saying like, I've never eaten Israeli food. It might be great, but it's not something that's a big part of our culture, right? There's not a lot, even a place like New York. Anyways, let's get back to it. 50% off the first month, first box. Discover the true taste of Israel. 50% off first month. It was $49.50, but now if you start your membership, you get, shipping free shipping for $49. You get all these wonderful treasures with Jesus dust packed in Jerusalem, and then after that, it's $99 a month. You can cancel any time. We also offer a $59 a month membership without our monthly surprise box. Well, what do you mean, without your monthly surprise box? What does that mean? You can, what's included with your 59% Israel, a meaningful way to support Israel. Your membership is more than just status. Access to the shop, featuring exclusive Israel-made products, option to purchase one of our surprise box per month at 60% discount of the standard non-club $99. Access to private online community where members receive exclusive updates from Israel, behind-the-scenes stories, spiritual insights, and contact with like-minded supporters from around the world. What a fucking membership for $59. Get all of that for $60 a month. Like that should be like $10,000 a month. With all those wonderful benefits. Just the updates alone from behind-the-scenes stories, spiritual insights, and connect with like-minded supporters from around the world. That's worth $1,000 a month. Jesus Christ, you guys are you're just underpricing all this stuff. Okay, so Megyn Kelly is a real piece of shit. This video just popped up. It's a different angle. It's the end of the day here. I'm kind of in the process of making dinner, but I want to do this while it was fresh in my mind. And I'm going to start editing this thing tomorrow. And then probably at the end of this video, I get into electromagnetic pollution. Some of these 6G is coming out. There's all kinds of shit, right? This is like so much. This is a deluge of just a bunch of shit. Like Trump being a disaster in his various ways. He's losing his shit. His eyes are closing like Joe Biden's. I got all this stuff ahead here. And, this video isn't coming out till Sunday and it's Friday night. So this popped up and Megyn Kelly's got a different angle of this woman and her wife and, this whole thing. And again, all these things kind of look like, to me, like a psychological operation type of thing, but whatever. Let's show you.
Again, he was dragged. It's not important right now what his name is. By the way, he's an Iraq war veteran. He has a family of his own. And again,
he's a hero. Fucking guy's a hero.
He was dragged just last June by an illegal while he was trying to arrest him in ICE, a child molester, to save people like Renee Good's children.
Exactly. Like this guy was a hero. This guy's military, and military people shouldn't be policing for the reason that you see this here, right? Like this is a military action.
Reason to fear these cars. So he took out his cell phone.
And so according to the story, some guy wouldn't get out of his car, and this guy punched through his window. You know, he got those like fucking gloves and shit. He punched through his window, and the guy dragged him, and he got his arm got fucked up. He needed all these stitches, like he had this problem. But he punched through the window to grab the guy, right? And, you know, there's got to be limits to what you're allowing people to do. Like, you know, you see these things in movies and TV shows where cops are shooting up the streets and they're having these gunfights, and the people don't matter. There's all these NPCs, their businesses, you know, bullets are going through the window, people are getting shot, kids are on the streets, and like car chases. You know, you just can't have shit like that, right? You know, cops can't do things that provoked innocent civilians losing their lives. And with today's technology, they can totally find people and get them. All you need is their license plate, and you go show up at their house and you go fucking arrest this, you know, this protester. That's all you have to do. You don't have to get in front of her car. You don't have to fire a fucking weapon in there. You have a license plate. You give it to law enforcement, and then she's arrested, right? Like, that's all it needs. This didn't have to be escalated, and it shouldn't be, right? This is, you know, this is done intentionally. They want you to see, like I said, it's the time of fuck you.
And he was videotaping this whole encounter. And we asked ourselves in our audience yesterday, where's that tape? Well, guess what? Alpha News just got it. And they're amazing. They're in Minneapolis and in Minnesota. They've done great reporting on the whole Derek Chauvin case. And here it is. We're going to play it for you. This is the
How is this not a dude? Look at those fucking shoulders. And
vantage point from the cop leading up to the
like,
moment.
just not, like, there's something wrong here. Now, she says she gets Botox, but there's so, like, is this an alien? It's a dude. What the fuck is going on here?
Of the confrontation. He's getting out of his car. You can see him approaching the maroon SUV. She's behind the wheel.
That's fine, dude. I'm not mad at you. Show your face. I'm not mad at you. That's okay. We don't change our plates every morning.
That's her talking. I'm not mad.
It'll be the same plate when you come talk to us later.
Okay, so she's saying this here. Like, so this is her wife. She's Megyn Kelly's going to, I don't know if she just said that. Did she say that there?
That's okay. We don't change our plates every morning.
That's her talking. I'm not mad.
It'll be the same plate when you come talk to us later. That's fine. U.S. citizen, former fucking veteran.
Okay, she's a former fucking veteran and U.S. citizen. That's what the wife said. Megyn Kelly's going to say that's the wife, you know, like this whole, couldn't get any worse, right? This woman's a lesbian with kids. Her wife is, you know, the male counterpart. Like there's a femme and a, I learned about this in one of my classes. I went to a liberal, my third attempt at college, I went to this kind of liberal hippie school. And we studied lesbians. And they had this thing where they had butches and femmes. You know, the butch is kind of like the dude and the femme is more, you know, whatever. So that would be the butch with the phone. And she's saying to the cop, we don't change our license plates every day like you do. And when you guys come to our house and talk to us, I'm a veteran and I'll be fine. And she thinks that's how it's going to go down because that's how it should go down. Like they're protesting, protests suck and these people suck. I'm not endorsing this. If this is organic and this really happened, right? You know, whatever it is. I mean, like, to me, this looks like a lot of this, everything I've seen so far, everything looks so fake to me anyway. Like everything just, you know, with AI, everything just looks whatever.
You want to come at us? You want to come at us? I say go get yourself some
This is the wife.
boy. Go ahead.
Out of the car. Get out of the fucking car. Get out of the
She's
car.
getting in.
Now, she's backing up when her wife's getting in, and so the wife doesn't get to get in. Like she's, well, how weird is that? Like she's just ditching her wife, right?
Here it goes.
Fucking bitch, he said. One of the two guys said, fucking bitch. Now, again, this is just not appropriate police behavior in terms of the shooting. Yeah, I agree that, you know, that's, you know, these, I mean, it's passive-aggressive, weak shit that these protests are doing. And you just can't open fire and shoot somebody in the head for this. You know, regardless of his story, of his trauma that he suffered by taking out a child pedophile.
Let's re-rack that. Let's re-rack the very last part, and we'll play it again. But Jesse, what we see there is her wife antagonizing ICE. This was obviously part of an op. She's filming them. She's trying.
Yeah, it's obviously part of the whole thing's obviously part of an op.
Trying to upset them, and I didn't realize the wife was trying to get into the car at the time. Renee Good steps on the accelerator and hits the cop. Let's watch it again.
Be the same plate when you come talk to us later. That's fine. U.S. citizen, former fucking veteran. You want to come at us? You want to come at us? I say go get yourself some lunch, big boy. Go ahead.
Out of the car. Get out of the fucking car. Get out of the car.
Whoa!
I mean, you can hear the collision. You can hear her.
Okay,
hit
so why don't they have the rest of the thing? Oh, she's
him, and
she's saying she could hear him hit him.
collision. You can hear her hit him.
Okay, so just so you know, and she would know this as well. When your microphone gets hit, and you guys probably know this, like if I, I mean, I'm just going to tap my microphone on my chest or roll it around the bed, right? Or hit the bottom of it. Like I have a free microphone, and I can't hear any noises, but it sounds probably pretty loud to you guys, right? So I'll play this back. But if I hit my mic, like the bottom of my mic, I'm sitting in bed and I'm holding my mic, and sometimes it'll touch my chest or do something, and then I have to stop it because I know there's going to be a loud sound, whatever. It's just going to be interference, and you could see from the video he wasn't hit hard. And even if he was, opening fire and shooting somebody in the fucking head, like, again, it's where he's standing in relationship to the car. Like, if you're trained in police, any kind of, anything to do with this, security, anything like this, you learn not to stand in front of the car when you don't know what the fucking person's going to do. You have drunk people or whatever it might be, crazy people, scared people. And so you just don't stand in front of the car. The guy barely got grazed by the car. And the guy who was holding the phone, this is the guy who shot her, right? And so, I guess maybe it is. I'm not sure what they were saying. But either way, Megyn Kelly's making it sound like there's some big thing that happened there.
And by the way, Jesse, if you slow it down and you look at the screen grab of Renee Good's face, you can see she saw him. She's looking right at him. I mean, we have it here. You'd have to zoom in, but I did it on my phone. She clearly saw the officer and accelerated. I don't know.
She was not trying to hit the fucking guy. Like when the guy, okay, so she could have hit the guy when he was walking around her car. The guy, you see the guy walking around her car in the first place. And I guess that's the guy with the gun, with his phone. And so she could have hit him then. So she wasn't playing to hit some guy, because you hear what her wife was saying. When you guys show up, you're going to take our license plate, and you guys are going to show up at our house, or cops are, whatever, right? This is, part of this whole thing. And, they're stupid because, I mean, again, this looks like, the whole thing looks like an operation, like it looks fake. But it's stupid because she just took 2 bullets or one bullet in the head, right? And nothing's going to change, right? So, like, every protester should be aware you ain't going to change shit. Like, how many of the protesters are they going to kill before something happens? As many as that needs to. And there's never going to be a situation where Trump's people are killing protesters and they're going to change what they're doing. The Supreme Court isn't going to help them. The Congress isn't going to help them. And Trump, has the White House certainly isn't going to help them. And so they're just showing you this is the time of fuck you. And you guys are out there with fucking whistles and like these lesbian women, like, trying to embarrass these guys, and they're not. They're at the level of, we're going to shoot you in the fucking head, right? I mean, that's what we saw. We don't know if it's like that, this is real or not, but either way, this is what people are seeing. Like, this is for your benefit. This is, a show that's playing out here. And Megyn Kelly couldn't be any more of a piece of shit here for pretending that this guy was justifying what he was doing.
Know that she wanted to run him over. I don't know what she intended, but it doesn't matter. What he saw was a dangerous instrumentality.
Well, he should be not in the path of the car. Like he shouldn't be there. Like that was just like carelessness. Like if he was an Iraqi war veteran, he didn't learn that in the Iraqi war. Like, don't stand in front of a car because getting run over by a car fucking sucks. Like, you would learn all these things. They had to deal with those IEDs and all the rest of that shit. He didn't learn that the last time after he was dragged. Like, he was dragged by a fucking car and he's still getting in front of cars. Like, I mean, that doesn't seem like somebody who's fucking doing his job correctly, right? So
about to kill him. And that is why he opened fire.
He was not going to kill him. It wasn't going to kill him. Like she was definitely, you could see from the angle that he was at most grazed.
Done it.
Now she's dead. I just think it's so sad. But these are this is you start doing drugs. Please don't start doing drugs, Megan.
Okay, Jesus Christ. Who's this fucking ghoul? All right, so there's this. I'm going to stick this in the beginning of the video. I've done a bunch of other content already. And then I'll see what else I put in there tomorrow. I'm going to, do more fun stuff tomorrow. And this will go up Sunday morning. And then whatever is happening, I don't know. They seem to be not as covering the protests as much. I haven't watched the news, but, whatever. It's just a fucking, the whole thing is just showing you that there's nothing that's going to change here, right? I mean, I'm reading Whispers of the Brighter World messages about electromagnetic pollution and talking about how the only thing that's going to stop it is catastrophe. They're rolling out 6G, which is heavy-duty millimeter waves. They're going to cover all that in a bit. And so, we're fucked. Anyways, there's two more things I want to point out here.
Go ahead.
Out of the car.
There's a dog in here. They have puppies. Right? So there's a dog here, whatever. When you're in a situation where you're like law enforcement or you're working, like I worked in treatment centers, where there's almost some level of, there's not almost some level where you're, having to deal with misbehaving, hostile piece of shit people, right? Like you have to, you when you work in those jobs, you get paid for dealing with the pieces of shit. Because there's plenty of people just, they're civil, they'll behave. But when you're doing this kind of job, and the way that ICE is doing their job, they're beating the shit out of people. I mean, this is all these, again, these aren't police. These people shouldn't be on American streets. These are Border Patrol agents, and they're not trained. They're not trained to do policing, right? And so, when you go through training, there is what they call de-escalating a situation. And everybody who does this kind of work gets that kind of training. For us, when I worked in treatment centers, when a kid was acting up and you were trying to avoid a restraint, because restraints suck and, they're just whatever, it's just a nightmare. One of the ways that you would do it, is your body language. You would approach the kid from the side and you would turn, when you come at somebody straight on, when the offensive line and the defensive line line up against each other, you see these boxers who they stare right at each other. And you do this with dogs. When predators, meet eye to eye and there's some kind of mano-a-mano battle, right, between, alpha males or, two lions or something. So you come to somebody on the side and there's all these kind of body language things you can do. There's a technique called reflective listening. If somebody's escalated, they're losing their shit. If you just repeat back to them what they say. I did it as a joke because I thought the trainings were kind of goofy, but it actually worked. I started doing it all the time. But, like a kid would say, I'm fucking, they gave me some kind of consequence. And I'd say, oh, so they gave you this consequence? And the person said, yes. People love to be heard. And if you just repeat back what the person said, especially with kids and things like that, where people are really angry, and it de-escalates them. And there's all these things that you are trained to de-escalate a situation, right? And, these protesters are pushing them because this is the old nonviolence, this is whatever they call that stuff with Gandhi. Non-cooperation that Gandhi did and nonviolent resistance. There's another term for it. I looked it up, but Gemini failed me. But either way, Martin Luther King did the same thing. And what they were trying to do is provoke the bully to beat the shit out of him. They would act in a way where they would get the the cops would do something to beat the shit out of them. And then they would show the images, the pictures, the stories, and it went around the globe, and the British looked like shit, and it helped push them out of India, even though India was their crown jewel. And of course, Martin Luther King, who I think was an FBI asset, and he was like, they both had issues, like moral issues, like these guys weren't like what people think about them. I mean, there was a lot of this I think was performative. But those were different times when people gave a shit. Like people were much better back then, less violent, less divided. Everyone on the right who's pushing, they're like, oh yeah, good to shoot these lesbians, right? Like they don't give a shit. And this fits in that story with the Charlie Kirk thing, where you had these radicalized liberal gay people. These aren't furry transgender people, but they're lesbians who are provoking violence and doing violent things, right? And so, if you were a gay person and you hear this fucking rhetoric, you should pay attention, right? And stay the fuck away from these kind of things, because they're trying to turn you into terrorists. You can see the groups that they're trying to make into terrorists. When the left was in power, it was right-wing Christians, these people. The Timothy McVeigh's radical right-wing people, white, the white homegrown terrorists. And now it's gays and lesbians and liberal people. And they're trying to, label you like they've labeled us in the truth community. I mean, it goes around, it all goes around. And you should be aware what's coming. And so, these guys are hoping to provoke something, so they get some video and they get the rest of it. But, and I'm not sure if this is this guy's phone or is his body armor camera, but I don't think they wear cameras, these ICE guys. But again, they haven't had any of this training. And so, right here, they could just let the woman drive away. Like she's got away with it, whatever. But if you take it personally and you get angry, and you can see how this guy is thinking about this by what he says at the end.
Get out of the fucking car. Get out of the
She's
car.
getting in.
So he comes up aggressively, get out of the car. And so when you come up aggressively and approach people in an aggressive manner, you don't know what they're going to do, fight or flight. She decides to run. She gets scared or whatever here. And so much so that she almost runs over her lesbian partner. Like, you could say that she's trying to run over this guy, but you think she cared more about the guy than she did about her wife, right? And that's what the right wing will try to sell you. But, again, if this thing was real or whatever, this is what, you would interpret it as, that she doesn't want to get yanked out of the car. She's worried now. She's scared. And she shouldn't have got in the road in the fucking first place if this was what she was going to do. But they're not fucking around with her, and they're trying to grab her. Now, they could just let her go, but this other guy's put himself in front of the car like a fucking idiot, right? Not in front of it, but on the side of it, because because you can hear what he says here. Here's the highlight of it.
Here it goes.
Fucking bitch. Right? Like, the guy, after popping her in the head 3 times, said fucking bitch. So, whatever his feelings are towards women, what kind of divorce history this guy has, what his, attitude is. And this is, on the left, this is going to play as misogynistic, right? And this video is going to circulate. And Megyn Kelly thinks this is something that helps defend this guy, but it fucking doesn't, right? Because, again, he could have de-escalated the situation. And, she wasn't going 40 miles an hour at him with a car. And if she was, you can't shoot her and expect that, like, that's going to make things better for you. What's going to make things better for you is to get out of the fucking way, right? If somebody's trying to hit you with a car, you could try to shoot them in the head, but then when you dive to the right, who knows which way the car's going, because this person's now dead, and they're dead at the wheel, and the car's out of control, right? So it would behoove you to get out of the way instead of shooting him. But he's not really, she's basically barely grazing him. I mean, her wife is in much danger as anything else. Again, if this is a real thing, which I don't, it seems like the whole thing's just an op, right? And it's about provoking and not escalating the tensions between the left and the right, and Trump, pushing this idea of martial law and the rest of it, right? They're training you that this is how things are going down now, right? People, ICE agents can just come up, these masked ICE agents, these anonymous ICE agents can just come up and grab you out of your car, beat the shit out of you, tear gas you, go to your school, start fucking cracking heads, shoot you in the fucking head, shoot you in the head, right? All these things. And it's just like, that's what happens. And you're a terrorist. If it happens to you, you're a terrorist, right? And this is why I say protests don't work, because it takes somebody who cares, like people who care in power, not fucking Morning Joe and not some liberal celebrity and not fucking Tim Walz, but someone in the federal government and the media, not any of these people, and the right wing and Trump are just like fuck you, just like the Biden administration were like fuck you when they started censoring all of us, in a way that, and everyone's like went along with it, right? Like people were being censored and being targeted under the left, just like they are now under the right, and people went along with it, and so that's why you have to hold this as a standard for everybody. But you had the dumbass QBs calling for, these rendering of people and getting rid of their judicial rights and bringing them down to Guantanamo Bay without due process and giving them secret military tribunals and hanging them. And just because they watched a video and somebody said Tom Hanks was a fucking pedo, so, people are just, they don't have any common sense anymore. They don't understand what's going on. And they don't understand how this is going to affect everybody. Like, they're going to march you into the fucking, the concentration FEMA camps when all this shit starts going down and there's a collapse and they start fucking, depopulating. And they march you into these FEMA camps, and they don't care if you're, what race you are, what sex you are, what sexual orientation you are, what political party you are, what religion you are. They'll march you in there all together, right? And you'll be like, holy shit, it's us against them. Yeah, it's kind of late. It's too late to fucking realize that. But anyways, so there's that. Okay, so, when anything happens organically, the powers that be always try to spin it and turn it into whatever they need to turn it into, right? They turn it into some kind of an asset for them. They find a way to spin it. Like something like the Nancy Pelosi thing, they seem to want to just get rid of that thing as quickly as possible. Her husband getting beaten by a hammer. And so it seemed like it was maybe more organic than it was anything else, because they didn't utilize it like they did January 6th. They didn't really make it a big thing. They just kind of blew past it, right? It was, the liberal media didn't focus on it. So it's, you can kind of tell which things are more organic or more staged. The Trump assassination attempt was just clearly staged. It was so badly done. The fucking fake blood, all that shit, right? That was like right off the bat, I knew. With these other things, like I couldn't tell with the Charlie Kirk thing. Like, I don't know if he was really shot or that was a hologram or that was, all the different theories out there, right? With this thing, I mostly think it's a complete staged operation. And now I was watching this thing with Aaron Burnett with my wife. We just happened to, we were watching the Dark Wolf on Amazon. It's a military movie, part of that. It's like a prequel to that movie, that TV show they have called the Hit List or the something. The List, I don't know. So this guy's killing people on the list. And interesting enough, they're doing joint operations with Israel in this thing, the Terminal List. So my wife dozed off, and I turned on CNN. Like, she went to CNN, just happened to be on that. And Aaron Burnett was running this thing. The wife of the victim, allegedly, the alleged victim, the person here, gives a statement here, right?
Breaking news, Renee Good's wife, who was there with her at the time of the shooting, is now speaking out, saying in part in a statement, quote, on Wednesday, January 7th, we stopped to support our neighbors. We had whistles. They had guns.
Okay, so they're going to bring in a former neighbor, and there's a lot of inconsistencies in their story, right? And so the first thing I want to say is, well, we'll get to this when they're going to show the video clip. They're all showing that video clip now that I already showed you, that Megyn Kelly showed. But we had whistles, they had guns. Yeah, no shit, right? Why would you ever be in a situation where you have whistles and the other people have guns. Like, why are you saying that? Like, that, I mean, you're fucked, right? If you have whistles and the other people have guns, you're counting on their fucking decency. And you guys all say all the time that Trump has none, right? Does Trump have decency? Do the left-wing people think Trump has decency? And the people around him who are just, his yes men and doing everything that he is bidding, and he's, acting like a dictator. Do you think that they're going to, you're trusting their decision-making, right? These thugs, these fucking biker dudes, these like racist motherfuckers, like these, white nationalist guys they got out there beating up fucking immigrants. You think that you want to be in a situation where you have a whistle and they have a gun? Like right there, that tells you everything you need to know.
I am now left to raise our son and to continue teaching him, as Renee believed that there are people building a better world for him, that the people who did this had fear and anger in their hearts, and we need to show them a better way.
Are you fucking high, right? You think the guy who shot your wife in the fucking head with your dog in the car, and after she was shot her said, fucking bitch, that he's looking for you for inspiration and guidance? He's looking for you to show him a better way? Or the Trump administration is looking you to these people, the right-wing people that are backing Trump, that a lesbian couple and their son and now the single lesbian mom are going to show them a better way? And if that was the way, then why the fuck why is she parked in the middle of the road with whistles? Like, why are you being a dick and blocking them and thinking, that you're relying on their humanity? There's no humanity anymore. You should not rely on people's humanity. Like, that's, we saw this with the riots and things like this were happening. I know people who were in like a southern city, and the Black Lives Matter people were like fucking, coming up to their car. Remember, the liberals were ripping them out of their cars and stuff. And now you have these right-wing ICE agent thugs out there. You can't count on people's humanity. Like, you have to, you have to be smarter than that. Like, you don't think that people are going to be nice or good, and they're going to care about your protests or your beliefs. And so, if you believe that, then you wouldn't be out there on the street being fucking trying to impede their whatever the fuck they're doing with whistles, right? You'd be at home thinking their humanity would win out.
Just getting that from her. Joining us now out front on the phone is Renee Good's former neighbor, Jennifer, who has asked us not to include her last name for security reasons.
Yeah, you're scared shitless of ICE now. And why are you on the show if you're scared shitless? Because you don't think they can fucking find you? If that's your actual first name, or they just look at their neighbors? You don't think they could figure out who your voice is? They've been spying on us in every possible way. I have this video I have to show people. My wife found a video on Twitter where this woman is telling you how to turn off your microphone so Apple and and these other apps aren't listening into you. And it's fucking a lot of work to do. There's multiple steps, and it's not an easy thing. And I mean, if you're scared, then you shouldn't be on the show, right? You're not going to change anybody's mind. It's all liberals are watching here. They're not on Trump's side. They're not going to believe you on Fox News. Everyone's going to decide this based in their partisan beliefs, at least, with the majority of people.
But Jennifer, I do appreciate your speaking out so that people know more about Renee than what we see on this video. And I know that you knew her. You lived across the street from her wife and her son not very long ago, just in 2024. Before she moved to Minneapolis, your kids had play dates together. What do you remember most about her?
And first of all, thank you, Erin, for letting me speak. I really wanted to impress upon the people of our community what a wonderful woman she was.
So I cut it off there accidentally. I taped this off my TV. I got more to come here, but she said, I didn't know that very long. And this is all very interesting. So they moved in 2024, which I'll tell you. This is where these things don't add up. Let me play this next clip here.
It sticks with you. Renee and her family, her wife and son, moved from Kansas City after the 2024 election, pretty much right after. And you said that's why you only knew them for the period of time you did. Why did they tell you they were leaving?
They said they were getting away for a while before the inauguration. I think they were a little afraid of what was to come.
there's things that look very suspicious here now. So first of all, they moved to Minneapolis just in time for this thing here. They were only there for a short period of time. They're not really in the community. She's saying that they moved because they were in Kansas City, which is, in a red state, right, Missouri. And as a lesbian couple, they were worried after the election, with Trump being emboldened and empowered, that maybe their neighbors would, harass them for being lesbians. So they moved to the more liberal Minneapolis, right? And so if they're really worried about that kind of shit, like people maybe targeting in them some way, and there's not real, there's not those kind of hate crimes and, nothing like that, right? And they're going to go out and fucking take on these ICE thugs, right? Like that doesn't track, right? If you're going to move, because you're like, we're in a red state and we're fucking, and I don't know what you have to change jobs. They have a kid's in school, these things, right? So you're living in Kansas City. You don't live there very long. The woman says she's ex-military. We'll get into that in a bit, because that's also very suspicious about this, the wife. It's January 7th, the day after January 6th. They always have these dates, right? And they moved to Minneapolis out of fear of their lesbian lifestyle in Kansas City, but there's still many Republicans in Minnesota that might feel emboldened. And if you're going to be those kind of people that would move to avoid being harassed for your lifestyle and your, whatever your orientation is, then why the fuck would you be out there parked in the middle of the fucking road with ICE agents, right? And then, making videos and making content as like these activists. Getting targeted, you're putting a target on your back on the internet to be, doxxed and harassed, and you just need one of these right-wing fucks to pick it up and show your video. Like if this thing went viral, if they had done something else. And so you're trying to provoke these ICE agents, and then you're going to, use that video, and like you're going to be targeted. You're putting your fucking big target on your back. So those two things don't add up, right? Moving because you're scared, and then, going out and battling these ICE agents.
So in this new video that we have, Jennifer, by the ICE agent.
Okay, it's weird that he has a video, and I meant to say more about this before, and I'm glad I'm doing this now. Why is the guy videotaping? Why is he's got his phone out, right? So there's a chance things might go south. This guy's got a fucking temper, and he calls this woman a fucking bitch after popping her in the head, right? And, it's not smart for him to be taping what's going on there. Because, if they're looking at like, well, I have my video and you have yours. And I, used to tell my kids, when you're in some sort of a conflict, everyone get their fucking phones out. Like you and your family, get your phones out. If you're live streaming something, I mean, if you have the ability to do that, just because whoever has the best video is going to be the victim, right? Like, people provoke people all the time, and then somebody retaliates. It's like in the football game where somebody takes a cheap shot and a person retaliates, and then they get the penalty. It happens like all the time. And so you should always have your video camera out. But, these guys know they're being videoed all the time, and they want their side of the story. And he's, about to do some fucking very raw shit here, right? And so it seems odd that he's videoing. Like he's got his phone out in video when he's, having these hostile interactions with people. She's videoing him, and he's videoing her as you watch this. The whole, people in the neighborhood are videoing, this whole thing's going down, right? Very odd. It's the kind of thing you would video if this was like, all right, let's get as many different videos as we can. And, when they ever have these kind of packages, when they have a psychological operation, they release different information on consecutive days. They keep the story going. And so more and more video comes out as the days go on. This video is like a humdinger. This video with him and interacting with them, the video beforehand. They let everyone get a dose of, people start making up their minds and having their opinions. And, there's stuff on both sides where people can find a way to believe whatever their side believes, right? And then, they release the second video, which the same thing happens.
That just came out. We do see Renee on his video turn her wheel to the right, which would indicate she was trying to get away. Of course, you do hear the thud and then the shot. perhaps of the agent being hit. So, look, we're all trying to understand exactly what happened here. But
Okay, so I believe that this thing is staged, whatever it is, right? But what the fuck? You're trying to understand what happened here? Aside from it being a staged operation, that's a whole nother level. But if you're just judging this like this is organic, it happened the way it happened, this guy's way fucking out of line. Now, I don't approve of them protesting, and I don't approve of her putting her car in the middle of the road. I don't approve of her trying to run away when the ICE agent's trying to drag her out of her car, although I understand why that would happen. But if this is organic, she's somewhat at fault, but she in no way deserved to be shot in the fucking head. There's no fucking justification for that. Like, this is not what was supposed to happen in America, right? So you can say whatever you want, whatever side you're on, liberal, gay, straight, whatever kind of thing. The ICE agent's 100% in the wrong. You have to figure that out. Like, it's a no-brainer. Like, everyone with half a fucking brain should realize you can't have ICE agents shooting fucking American citizens on the street for what we saw transpired there, right? So, like, holy shit. This is where it's getting weird. Because they're almost like justifying the Republican position, because I don't know, they're so scared of Trump or whatever it is, right? It's very clearly his fault. The fact that she got shot in the head is his fault.
his video, turn her wheel to the right, which would indicate she was trying to get away. Of course, you do hear the thud and then the shot, perhaps of the agent being hit. So, look, we're all trying to understand exactly what happened here. But President Trump says she was violently, willfully, and viciously ran over the ICE officer.
Yeah, of course, he would say that. There's a video of him coming up. It's fucking hilarious. Like, all of it. Like, just he's lost his shit. And he's just completely unhinged. But let me find the whole tweet here. I just viewed the clip of the event that took place in Minneapolis, Minnesota. It's a horrible thing to watch. The woman screaming was obviously a professional agitator, and the woman driving the car was very disorderly, obstructing and resisting, who then violently and willfully and viciously ran over the ICE officer, who seems to have shot her in self-defense. There's no way that's self-defense, and I'll get into that in a moment. I've already talked about this. Based on the attached clip, it's hard to believe he is alive, but is now recovering in the hospital. Come on. The situation is being studied in its entirety, but the reason these incidents are happening is because the radical left is threatening, assaulting, and targeting our law enforcement officers and ICE agents on a daily basis. They're just trying to do the job of making America safe, in capital letters. We need to stand by and protect our law enforcement officers from the radical left movement of violence and hatred. Okay, so that's completely fucked. So in a moment, I'm waiting for this clip to watch the clip again. But there's something that's indisputable about this, right? Which there's a couple of things that are indisputable about why this is his fault. And there's something I don't think I've talked about yet, right? But, if you present these things to people who are on the right, they're oblivious to it, just like the left was about Biden. But there's really no argument against what I'm about to say. Let's go to the clip here, and then I'll get to that.
I'm not trying to put you in a position of trying to analyze the video, Jennifer. It's just more of a perspective of the person that you knew. Do you think that Renee would have had any intention of ever harming somebody?
Harming someone? No. I saw the video this afternoon, and to me, it looks like she's trying to get away. And she's trying to de-escalate the situation. And that would be...
Okay, so I was talking about de-escalate earlier. And that's complete bullshit. Now, this woman didn't know her very long. But she escalated the situation by parking her car sideways and trying to block these ICE agents. And, you're not going to stop them doing for what they're doing. And part of what they're doing is to create chaos. These are like anarchist thugs out there. These aren't fucking, military or disciplined people. These are like fucking, criminal thug-like motherfuckers out there who are just out there to cause havoc. And there's all the videos of them doing shit. And Trump's like, fuck you. We're making America great again. And the left doesn't, you're not going to combat this with whistles and parking your car sideways and hoping these people have a fucking heart, because they don't, right? I mean, they have a heart, but not, you know. And these guys aren't like have any compassion in or anything but hatred for you. Like this is a fucking civil war shit going on. And so by parking your car in this situation, you escalate the situation, right? As you said, well, I'm not mad at you. You know, like told you about the protests we saw. I started yelling at people because they got in our fucking way. And they're inconvenience everybody. And they're laughing and high-fiving. And they're out in a Republican fucking town trying to, you know, with these No Kings protests. And they're fucking gay and stupid. And, you know, they have no point. I'm getting irritated right now just thinking about it, right? So, like, just don't do that. Like, you know, this isn't, there's no purpose to it, right? And so let's say this happened the way they say. That, you know, she was trying to de-escalate the situation. Well, the fact of the matter is she was leaving her wife behind, which is fucked, right? I mean, like, her wife's trying to get in the car. She could have fucking hurt her. She's pulling out. And what was the wife going to do? She's leaving her high and dry as she drove away. They have your license plate, and they have vehicles behind you. So you're not driving away. The smart thing would have been to, like, fucking get yanked out of the car. You're getting cuffed anyway. Driving away, it's like, you know, when you run away from the cops, you start piling up the felony. So, you know, she wasn't thinking. But there's no way she was trying to run the guy over because she would have spent the rest of her life in jail or probably been shot, right? So, like, you know, her motivation was not to kill the guy. Like, she could have done that ahead of time. You could see by the look on her face. Again, it seems like the whole thing's staged. But other than that, there's no evidence that she was out there to kill an ICE agent, that she, you know, like, lost her shit. She panicked. Like, that was the most likely explanation for her behavior. If this, you know, like, if this was legitimate, that would be her reaction would be flight, right? She wasn't fighting. She was flying.
I had of her, you know, like not that she would run for problems, but that she, you know, she wasn't ever trying to incite violence.
Yeah. All right. Well, Jennifer, I appreciate your taking the time to talk and share this about your neighbor. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And we have more breaking news right now. President Trump is saying he officially supports the FBI cutting Minnesota officials out of its investigation.
They're crooked officials. I mean, Minneapolis and Minnesota, what a beautiful place, but it's being destroyed.
I can't show you this with my pointer because I copy this from my phone. So I download it directly to Premiere Pro. But you see there's a flag pin on his lapel, and directly under that there's a Trump caricature. The guy's face is fucked. He's ghouling it up. He can't open his fucking eyes, which I get into, and I guess the clip's coming after this. The guy looks fucking like hell. His health is imploding, and he's losing his shit mentally. And he's wearing a pin of himself. Like, fuck.
It's got an incompetent governor fool. I mean, he's a stupid person. It's a very corrupt state. I feel that I won Minnesota. I think I won it all 3 times. Nobody's won it since Richard Nixon won it many, many years ago. I won it all 3 times, in my opinion.
Not a matter of opinion, it's a matter of fact. And he lost Minnesota 3 times, but there's a lot there that he just said. So I want to go out front.
The name of her show is Out Front, so she says it constantly. Let's go out front. Let's go out front. We're about to go out front. You know, but Trump is saying that the FBI is going to exclude local law enforcement. Now, what happened with Charlie Kirk in Utah is the FBI handed over the investigation, because it's a statewide crime, to the local Utah police. But here, with this crime, it's going to be federal, and the FBI are excluding local law enforcement and politicians from participating in this investigation, right? Like, this is how fucked it is. Like, that's how corrupt his FBI is. And the Democrats have no fucking answer for this. They can't do anything about it. And she's out there going, we're trying to understand what happened. No, you're getting fucking steamrolled, right? Like, you at CNN, you guys are fighting, you're fighting people with guns with whistles. You're fighting people with fucking tanks with whistles, right?
Action, right, on his own cell phone. And that has just come out. I'll play it here.
That's okay, we don't don't change our plates every morning, just so you know. It'll be the same plate when you come talk to us later. That's fine. U.S. citizen, former fucking president. You want to come at us? You want to come at us? I say go get yourself some lunch, big boy.
Big boy. Okay, so what's interesting about this is she's taping him, and Trump said she's a professional agitator, not realizing that these two fine young ladies are married. But she's ex-military, and so is the guy, right? So both of them have military experience, and they're taping each other. When you're in the military, you're basically owned for life. You have the VA. I mean, they're monitoring you, like, in that movie Conspiracy Theory with Mel Gibson, where they program these motherfuckers to, these, mind-controlled subjects to buy. They always have to have a copy of Catcher of the Rye. It's a way they can track them. But now, of course, they can track all these people. And they keep all these people monitored because ex-military people are dangerous to the government, and almost all of them end up feeling some kind of way about the government. They feel like hostile towards the government. And so they're always assets. We're watching that TV show about the terminalist follow-up, the Dark Wolf or whatever it's called. And, these guys are enlisted, they're expelled from the military, they're immediately recruited as assets, right, for the CIA or whatever it is. And so the fact that they moved right before this event, like a few months to get stabilized in the area, and, they moved out of fear. That's what they're telling people of their lifestyle, but here they are fucking in the midst of this thing. The whole thing looks very suspicious. The fact this guy is videoing this thing when he's got a job to do, he decides to pull out his phone and tape this incident. And, if he's been run over by a car before, then he should be like, all right, I'm aware of this vehicle. This woman might fucking do something stupid. Let me make sure I'm not in the way. Like that's 100% on him, which I've already talked about over and over again. At the end of this clip, the politician is going to put her prayer hands up because she needed to do something. Right? But the thing about all this stuff is, this fuck around and find out. Right-wing people will try to say this is self-defense, but in reality, they want these ICE agents to shoot liberal lesbians in the fucking face, right? Like, that's the truth of it. Like, all these right-wing people, they're glad to see this. Most of these people have had arguments online, with their relatives. I mean, left-wing people want to see, right-wing people shot in the face. They just don't want to do it because they don't own guns. But that's where we're at, right? People want to see this. There's no feeling bad for this woman and her wife and their kid. They're glad that this happened. Whatever they're saying, they're glad it's happened, and they like to see more of it.
Okay.
Out of the car. Get out of the fucking car. Get out of the car.
They really turn down the volume when he says fucking bitch, and they're not even talking about it, which is really weird. Why wouldn't they talk about that? Him shooting a woman in the face and saying fucking bitch like he's playing fucking Grand Theft Auto or some shit like that. I mean, it's really fucked up, right? And they're not even talking about it.
Senator, the vice president says that video shows the ICE agent's life was endangered and he fired in self-defense.
See, it's amazing that you could look at this and people are so fucked up inside themselves and their lenses have been so skewed. They can't see the simple logical facts and truth of what's happened. It looks fake as fuck. First of all, this is something being perpetrated on all of us, not on the people involved. Like, if it's organic, it's organic. But right now, this is a psychological operation, and they're always testing and seeing like what they can get away with, and what people's discernment level is, and what they think their leverage is, and what their people are willing to do, and what they can get away with, and what the reaction of the public's going to be, right? And other than the midterm elections, there's nothing. And Trump's already fucked with that anyhow, right? But this is the simple thing. I've talked about all the other things. The guy should have put himself in, if he's been run over, then he shouldn't have been in harm's way. And all the weirdness about how it's fake and they're both in the military and all the things I've just said here, right? But the one thing that makes this, a bad shooting, like if this was a cop, this would be a bad shooting, or a military person, a bad shooting. Him shooting this woman did not
save his life, right? They can say that he was hit by the car, and I think it barely grazed him. Certainly, it wasn't something that was going to do any major damage. And again, that's his fault for being in the fucking way, because there's you just like it's her fault for being in the middle of the road. Like, I don't feel bad for her being shot because again, shouldn't have happened or whatever it is. But like, just protesting is fucking stupid, right? And you're putting yourself in a possible hostile situation with armed people who are, working for fucking a president who's like obviously unhinged, and he's just like, he doesn't playing by the fucking rules anymore, right? But this guy shooting her did not save his life. In fact, pulling out his gun and shooting her in the fucking head made her hitting him worse, right? She had already hit the guy. When you watch the video here, let's watch this part again.
Go ahead. Out of the car. Get out of the fucking car. Get out of the car.
That's the part where he's hit. And right after that, he fires his weapon. And it's second. So his weapon was already being drawn when he was being hit, right? When the car fucking grazed him. And so, one, like I said before, if you're shooting someone in a car and that car doesn't stop as soon as the person's dead, right? The car is still going to keep on going. And, like if the person's foot goes down the accelerator, who knows what happens? Their body might go into shock and they stiffen up. And like they're not in control of the wheel and there's other people there. Like there's no reason to shoot her. Like you just go pull her over later. And if she hit you, that's an assault with a deadly weapon. That woman's going to fucking prison. Like, she could have easily been charged with assault with a deadly weapon. But shooting her didn't solve the problem because he was already hit. Didn't save his life. Didn't prevent anything from happening. He didn't need to fire into her car. Like this is one of those things you don't do it. But he was already pulling his gun out when she started to drive, right? So, like, instead of getting out of the way, he's pulling his fucking gun out. She hits him, and then he shoots immediately because his gun's already there. His gun's up as she hits him, right? And so, like, there's no argument for this because he didn't need to shoot her. There's no reason to shoot her. Like, sure, her driving off wasn't like she was going to go start running into people and killing them. She wasn't in danger. She was just being a dick in the middle of the road. They decided to rip her out of her car. She panics, and like this is what the official story would be, like what we just saw. Like if this is organic, she panicked, and she bumped into the officer, the fucking ICE agent thug, and he's already got his fucking gun out, like this is some fucking Fallujah soldier, and like his experience with this pedophile that they said would have tainted this experience here, right? Well, next time, make sure I pull out. I'm not going to punch into the window and get dragged along. I'm going to shoot the next motherfucker who tries to drive over me, right? Fucking bitch. So this is obviously his fault. Like, there's no way around it.
Okay, so I slapped that together last night, the Aaron Burnett piece. And it's amazing that they're not focusing on the guy saying, fucking bitch after shooting her. Like, there's nothing more, non-self-defense than a guy shooting a woman in the head and then saying fucking bitch, right? Like, what I want to just add here is there's clearly a thug here, right? In the George Floyd situation, the thug was George Floyd. Now, that was not, there was excessive violence on the police end, firings, whatever it is. That guy going to prison seems a little bit harsh. But George Floyd was somebody who just committed a felony crime, whatever that he did at the drugstore, whatever it was they went into. He had stolen, and he was waiting in his car, fucked up on drugs, and he's a big dude, right? So you can understand where the cops are apprehensive. Like, you got to protect yourself in that kind of situation. Like, people don't, see the other side of something, like how it feels to be on the other end of something, right? Just like these ICE agents are big, intimidating guys, and that would create a fear response with guns, right? When these liberals have whistles. But George Floyd was the thug. Now, you could say these cops were also thugs. That you can make a case for that. But George Floyd was, resisting arrest, and like I said, a big dude. It was on drugs, right? So You always have to be worried. Now, did he need to put his knee on the guy's neck forever? No, like these kind of things. But it was that cop was a lot better than this ICE fucking guy who pulled out his gun and just fucking shot some woman in the head 3 times, right? And totally escalated the situation and the rest of it. So this cop is definitely the thug here. And you could make an excuse of what he went through before being run over by a car. Again, I believe this to be a psyop, but I'm just saying what we're seeing here. Because what we're seeing here is how people are reacting. But I think a lot of this has to do with, and I don't know how it's going to play out. There is some rioting. I think there's going to be less overall rioting in the across the nation over this woman being shot in the head, which is kind of completely fucked up. I think it has a lot to do with, first she's a liberal white protester. She's like one of these liberal feminist women. That's how we saw her initially. Like, people didn't know she was a lesbian yet. And I don't think people have very much sympathy for angry feminists. Like, I think it's just, there's been a long history of the cops profiling black people. And so there's a lot of anger in the African American community about that, and people kind of know about it. I've had cops tell me that, it's true, like years and years ago. This has always been the case. The cops are, profile people of color, and, not just black people, but like white trash. And, there's people that are, the cops are trained to, to basically view as criminals, and they're there to keep the good people, the people who have, with their version of the good people, the people with money and people with, suburban neighborhoods, safe from, these various elements that are profiled. And African Americans, especially African American males, are profiled in this way. And so, like, there was a lot of anger in the African American community. Years and years ago, like, I was in a car with one of the guys on my basketball team, one of my friends who was a black dude who grew up in suburbs. Was, very less angry than I was. Like he was a person that got along with people. He was, he was a nicer person than I was, and he was driving. And a cop pulled us over, and the way he reacted, I was pretty shocked at. My friend was hostile. He's like, I hate fucking cops, and there's just this thing right there. And then maybe 6 months later or so, I was driving my buddy, his girlfriend lived up in Boston. We were in Connecticut, and Boston like 2 hours away, and she was going to school. And he convinced me and my 2 other friends. He was better friends with one of my other friends, but we were kind of friends. Convinced us that we should go to this party with his girlfriend and her whatever they were, sorority sisters. And so we went up there, and it was really fucking awkward. The girls wanted no part of us, and it wasn't like a party. Like we were a little bit drunk on the way up, and we got there, and they weren't really even drinking. They were serving like broccoli and shit. And I was like, we gotta get out of here. And I started eating fucking broccoli, and they had like a tray of like veggies, like broccoli and carrots and dip or something. And we were just like, these girls are completely like not almost like foreign to us. And I started eating that because my buddies were drunk. I wasn't as drunk, and I said, I gotta drive us home. And we were driving through. Somehow we went the wrong way, and it was late at night, and I was tired, and I was a little bit drunk, and we went the wrong way, and I got caught up in one of those fucking traffic circles in Rhode Island, which is, off to the left of it, and the cop pulled me over, and I passed the sobriety test, and my friends were like, you were yelling, like, you have to say the alphabet backwards, and I was like yelling it out. But somehow the cop let us go. And if I had got busted, it would have been, like mandatory. It was Friday night, so it would have been mandatory staying being locked up over the weekend in, Rhode Island. And then I didn't have really family to help me. So one of my friends would have had to come and like bail. It would have been a fucking disaster, right? I mean, whatever it might have been. But, and I was like, if I was a black dude, I totally would have been going to jail, like that kind of thing. So people should be aware of that. But, there's profiling of black people. People don't care about suburban liberal women, and then these lesbians probably even less. Of the LGBTQ community, the L's are first, like the lesbians are first. But I think they're the most, like, not liked group. And it's not, my experience with lesbians, they're the easiest to get along with in terms of any of those various groups. I didn't know any T's. I worked with gay dudes before, and I went to school with gay dudes and lesbians, and I had lesbian bosses, and they were really good bosses. Like, they were good, they were probably the easiest group there, the least dramatic group in the LGBTQ, but people for the most part don't like lesbians. There's not a lot of sympathy for them, like certainly in the right wing. There's as many gay people in the Republican households, maybe even more. Statistically, there's going to be 10% of the population is going to be gay. So you're going to have gay Republicans, you're going to have gay, there's lots of Republicans, their kids are gay, and, like Dick Cheney and these people, but, they have a lot of hate for him. You can tell by the way Megyn Kelly was saying this woman's name. But these, her wife was, being kind of aggressive with the cop, but she was not. Like, she was, the woman who was allegedly, the victim here. But she's not being viewed as a victim, and that I don't think this guy's going to jail. And the other piece about it is we know the victim's name, and of course the victim's dead, so that's part of it. But, we know her name and her situation and all this information about her. Oftentimes they protect the victim, right? Especially when the victim's still alive. But the guy who shot her, the thug, we don't know anything about him other than he was, hurt before. So he was, sensitive because he'd been dragged by another car. And he was protecting the world from this pedo immigrant that he was, trying to arrest. Like, that's their fucking story. And he was in Iraq. And people are, they always say thank you for your service, but they don't hire vets because they don't like, people don't want to work with people who've killed other people and are trained to kill people. I mean, they say that they do, but they don't. They don't hire vets, right? Thank you for your service, but, I don't want to have a relationship with you because you scare me, right? This kind of thing. And, who knows what kind of soldier he was. Just because he was in the army doesn't mean he was a good guy, right? Like, those things don't go together. Like, people worship the military in our country, but that doesn't mean the soldiers, they're mostly pretty fucked up, especially if they've killed people and seen their friends die and, lived in that kind of stressful PTSD environment. And so they've hired these thugs, and this guy, nobody knows his name. Like, he maybe never will know his name, and there might not even be a criminal investigation, in terms of any of it. Like, he's not going to be charged with a crime. I'd be shocked if he's going to jail. And he's a lot more of a thug than Derek Chauvin was. But there's no love for these lesbians outside of the liberal community. And the media is, like, hamstrung by Trump, and they're like, we don't know what happened that day. Like, we totally know what happened that day. Trump's unleashed these thugs, and they're just told to fucking not take any shit from protesters or anybody else and, take a fuck you attitude. And, like, literally they said that after shooting her in the face for, an unjustified, it was a bad shooting. It's clear that that's the case, but this guy's probably, going to be, as soon as he can, because he's suffering from the brutal car hitting, being grazed by a car. He's in the hospital recovering. But he'll be back on the fucking streets cracking heads in no time. These guys are wearing masks, and, you can't, they're just, all these things. And so, they're sending a clear message here. All right, let's get into the other stuff. I want to add something here. I don't believe in victimization. I believe that everything is, some scars, and everything comes from God, and everything you experience, you're experiencing because your soul chose to experience that, or is something you have to undergo from something you've done in the past, right? And there's not victims. Like, I don't believe in victims and victim consciousness. And if you remove that idea from our life, it would change everything. People would be 100% accountable for everything that happens for them or happens to them, because of, past actions and attitudes and thoughts and whatever. or just you're supposed to experience this, right? There's nothing that's unfair. There's nothing that, why is this happening? And God didn't make a mistake. There's actually a reason for everything, right? And so it's a hard attitude to take, especially since we've grown up with this idea of victim consciousness. And they really work the victim consciousness. They use sex a lot in advertising, right? They use sex and, your urges for food and for sex and, whatever, your biological binge mechanism, you have these things. And they use that, sugar and fat, they use this kind of, people have, animals crave sugar and fat because they're very rare in nature. And then, of course, sex is the bigger one. And so they use these things, but they also use victim consciousness as an emotional plea, right? Christ's crucifixion is about that. And this, this idea of sympathy for the victim, outrage towards the offender, the bad guy and the good guy, these things. And for me, it's hard for me to feel anything for people in what I call the show. It's like, fictional characters. Like, these people aren't real to me. So it's harder for me to feel some kind of sympathy for them or their family and, any kind of an emotional reaction. But what I do feel responsible for, not responsible, but part of what I do here, what people are looking from me, when they come to watch these videos, when I react to something like this, how it's going to affect you, how it's going to affect all of us, right? Like, what does this mean for us? Like, why, because now we're a participant in this because they're going to change policies and they're going to change the way things are done based in what's happening here. There's going to be some effect on the rules and laws and attitudes in America based in these events. And so I see this guy, this ICE guy, as a thug, right? And, if this is real, if this happened the way, if this isn't some kind of acted, contrived, scripted event where these are people are, crisis actors and they're whatever they are, if this really happened the way we see it happening, which, is always a possibility, or even just looking at it as characters in a show, why are they there when the woman says in her own statement, the wife says, we had whistles and they had guns, and you're a soldier, like now you're a liberal lesbian woman living in Minneapolis protesting against Trump, but you're in a fucking war. Like, you don't know that Trump's conducting a war against you? He fucking says it all the time. Trump hates anybody who disagrees with him. Like, look what he did to Marjorie Taylor Greene, which was a loyal soldier for him. But because he's, guilty of being a complete creep and, associating with one of the biggest, the most famous pedophile in the world, and he doesn't want that information out there, he, broke ties with so many loyal people that were, loyal soldiers for him. And he just turns on him. He turns on all his friends. And he goes after them. Like, he tries to kill them, destroy them, whatever it might be. But many of them end up in jail and, worse, I guess. Trump's a fucking complete disloyal, selfish, narcissistic, fucking egomaniac, right? And he's waged war on Democrats and liberals. And just like they're making an excuse for this guy that he was dragged by a car before, Trump feels like he was victimized by the Antifa riots and that he didn't go far enough. And this time he's not going to be such a pussy. Like, it's clearly that's what he's, pushing out there, right? He's putting his foot down. And if you're going to show up with whistles and shit like that, not only are you going to be shot in the face, but you're going to be profiled, put on lists. And if you do this as a Republican, you come out and you're all aggressive and you say shit and you think, oh, now we're free to go back to the way things were. Yeah, for now. What happens when the next guy comes in and is even more oppressive than Biden was to the right? You're being profiled all the time. Like, they're not, the people that run the system, they're looking to, protesting is what they want you to do, right? Protesting is what they, you're being a complete sheeple by falling into that trap. It's a way that they can put you on lists. It's a way that they can, grab more power. They want protests. Like, they're not scared of protests. Doesn't hurt them and their property, right? Doesn't do anything to them. The people that, control the system, they protest and it drives the left-right, hatred, the division, and it's good for them on every level. And if you're out there protesting, you're a complete sheeple, piece of shit, dumbass, because you're feeding into the thing that you hate. You're giving them what they want, right? Whatever this manifests in the left or the right. But for the left-wing people, this is why, and I do not like guns. I'm not a gun person. I talked about this in the past. I'm not, a fan of them. And I don't think the majority of people are mature enough to handle the responsibility. I mean, even driving a car, which is a weapon, lots of people just aren't mature enough, and they're not, capable of making the right decisions. Even like my story about driving drunk and things like this, right? How many of us have driven drunk, and in an impaired fashion, and could have like wrecked our lives or wrecked somebody else's life or whatever it is, based in that bad decision making. And that's just people make bad decisions, and a lot of people are using drugs and alcohol, and firearms are even more a problem. And so I don't believe in them. But this shows you why you need them. This is what happens when an unarmed group of people with whistles goes up against armed people, and the powers that be have no sympathy, hatred in their heart. Trump is a hateful, fucking angry person. He's inspired this fucking arrogant, fuck around and find out kind of attitude. And if you go up against it, this is what's going to happen, right? And if it isn't getting shot in the face, it's going to be a number of things where you're going to be targeted in all types of different ways. And both sides are going to do this whenever they're in power. So like everyone should be aware, this is like, there's no common decency anymore. There's no, people, neighborly attitude. This is just like everyone out for themselves, and it's breaking down into demographics and political leanings and things. And it's just going to be more and more the same as wait till the resources start to go, right? Like people are fighting over resources, which is just around the corner. So anyways, this is where we're at. Like you can tell, this is a moment this isn't about any of the people in what we just saw. Like it's about them, but it's more about like how this affects everybody else, like policy and the way that everything's being, this is like escalating rules of engagement. Let's say you're in an argument with your spouse or somebody, and there's like kind of it's kind of a moderate argument, and both of you guys are holding back, whatever it might be, things that you're angry about, things, whatever it might, this kind of thing, someone in your family, or it could be anybody, and then somebody sort of crosses a line, and the other person says, "Oh yeah, you said that. Well, I'm going to say this," and it just rises to a level. I mean, even maybe becomes violent, right? Because this is it becomes like an arms race, right? This is where the rules of engagement, and somebody busts out a bat, and the other person busts out a gun, the other person busts out a bazooka, and the other person busts out a nuclear bomb. And Trump is already at the nuclear bomb stage already. Like he's ready to go with these countries. He's ready to shoot down fucking boats and laugh about how no one can go out in the ocean, all this kind of shit. I think that's coming in this. If I didn't cover this in an earlier video, it's coming today. I mean, he's just, he's unhinged, and, they're arrogant about it, and they just see everybody who doesn't agree with them as bad guys, and the left is the same way with Trump and everybody associated with him, and there's no way to bring this back to a kumbaya moment. And so this is where we're going. This is just going to, escalate into complete division, civil war type situation. Like you're in a civil war. You're just in the early stages of it. But it's it's been going on for a very long time, and now it's escalating very quickly. All right, so let's get back to the other stuff here. Okay, so this dude was on Fox News as a guest, wearing a blouse. Person was saying he's participating in an Illuminati humiliation ritual, but maybe he decided to wear a blouse all on his own. Fletcher Cox. Come on, Fletcher. You're better than that. So he's got the blouse there. Not Fox News. This is their NFL coverage, and this is a former NFL player. And he's wearing a blouse with Michael Strahan. This was a bunch of funny things that were sent to me. This was Venezuela here before the thing happened with the ICE agent.
President Trump was pretty clear yesterday. He said the United States is going to run Venezuela. Under what legal authority?
Well, first of all, what's going to happen here is that we have a quarantine on their oil. That means their economy will not be able to move forward until the conditions that are in the national interest.
So, like, he didn't know what to say there. This is a great moment.
Yesterday, he said the United States is going to run Venezuela. Under what legal authority?
Sounds like a drunken sailor here.
Well, first of all, what's going to happen here is that we have a quarantine on their oil. That means their economy will not be able to move forward until the conditions that are in the national interest of the United States and the interest of the Venezuelan people are met. And that's what we intend to do. So that leverage remains, that leverage is ongoing, and we expect that it's going to lead to results here. We're hopeful that it does, positive results for the people of Venezuela, but ultimately, most importantly for us, in the national interest of the United States. We will no longer have, hopefully, as we move forward here, we'll set the conditions so that we no longer have in our hemisphere a Venezuela that's the crossroads for many of our adversaries around the world, including Iran and Hezbollah.
Okay, dude, that's as far away from an answer as you could get. Plus, he's just fucking babbling.
Is no longer sending us drug gangs, is no longer sending us drug boats, is no longer a narco-trafficking paradise for all those drugs coming out of Colombia to going through the Caribbean and towards the United States. And obviously, we want a better future for the people of Venezuela. We want them.
Oh, yeah, exactly. We're just so wonderful. We're more fucking. I mean, one thing about Trump is he really cares about other people.
Have an oil industry where the wealth goes to the people, not to a handful of corrupt.
So you're going to set up communism? I thought you were against communism.
Individuals and stolen by pirates all over the world.
Pirates all over the fucking world? They're stealing their oil? Those oil pirates?
That's what we're working towards, and we intend to use the leverage we have to help achieve that.
Let me ask the question again. What is the legal authority for the United States to be running Venezuela?
Well, I explained to you what our goals are and how we're going to use the leverage to make it happen. As far as what our legal authority is on the quarantine, I'm very simple. We have court orders. These are sanctioned boats, and we get orders from courts to go after and seize these sanctions. So I don't know, is a court not a legal authority?
No, what's the legal authority to run Venezuela? Like, what do you have as a legal authority to go in there and run Venezuela? What are you talking, like, so you're saying, he's really saying that Trump is full of shit and shouldn't be saying stupid shit like that. Because if Trump was, a conscious person, like he wasn't fucking going senile, and he wasn't one of the most arrogant people in the history of the world, and he wasn't so full of himself, he wouldn't say something like that, right? This is what I liked about Trump in his first term. Of course, he wasn't as bad as he is now. He would say shit he wasn't supposed to. Like they can run Venezuela all they want through pressure and sanctions and threats, and they can have influence over Venezuela, just like Israel has influence over America. But Netanyahu would never admit to running America, right? Netanyahu or any other president wouldn't admit to running some other country. But Trump said, we're running Venezuela right now, and there's no legal authority to do that. And so he can't say that, but he says it any fucking way. And Marco Rubio can't defend it, right? So that's just a wonderful moment. A blue whale's poo can weigh as much as 4 tons, making it the second largest piece of shit in the world, just behind Donald Trump. A lot of just great memes out there today.
Benjamin Netanyahu, the Freddy Krueger of Gaza.
Woo!
The school shooter, heavyweight champion of the world. The man's killed a lot of kids.
My friends, the terrorist state of Israel want Palestinian civilians to die. Every man, woman, and child in Gaza.
Woo!
Israel's soldiers are deliberately targeting civilians. They fire rockets at schools, hospitals, mosques. They even shoot Palestinian women and children when they try to leave the war zone. Israel is deliberately starving the people of Gaza. All of them.
Look at that guy. Woo!
We win, they lose. I want to thank President Trump for his leadership. I thank President Biden for the bombs and for being, as he says, a proud Zionist. Actually, he says a proud Irish-American Zionist. May God bless the great alliance between Israel and America forever.
USA. How many kids did we kill today?
All right. So that was great. So these two turds decide to sit down for a fireside chat.
A lot to talk about, but let's start with Venezuela. Narco-terrorist, indicted, guy that we're losing 200 Americans a day to drugs.
Yeah.
Walk us through this decision in Venezuela.
Well, it wasn't a hard decision. Democrats wanted him and Republicans wanted him, and nobody
Nobody was willing to get him, just Trump.
had what it takes to get him or didn't want to get him.
No one had what it takes to get him, but still me. Look at his fucking face, man. What's wrong with this motherfucker? It's like he's wearing a mask, right?
Get him? I don't know.
He's got, those things like Inuit people, Eskimos, those sun goggles they wear, like snow goggles.
Something happened, but he killed a lot of people. He sent a lot of bad people into our country. He emptied his prisons into the United States. He emptied his mental institutions and insane asylums into the United States, and did a lot of.
It was crazy all the shit he was doing, and
very bad things. But he was a big drug pusher. You see that because all the boats that we shot down, they came out of Venezuela.
Crazy, big drug pusher.
Drugs. There's a lot of boats and a lot of drugs. There are very few boats operating right now. There's almost no boats. You can't find any boats.
I don't think anyone would go fishing in those
Not a lot of
waters.
people want to go fishing anymore.
Yeah, because we're fucking shooting down fishermen now. It was like, hey, we're not going to go fishing anymore, so let's just not have any fish, even though we have a massive amount of ocean and a massive amount of fish. We've been fishing for years, but some motherfuckers just shooting down boats randomly. So, like, why are they even joking about that shit? People aren't fishing over there because we're just fucking blowing up any boat they release. What, they have like 10 boats in Venezuela? Like, you've only bombed like, 20 boats or something, right? I mean, they have a huge fucking ocean. I'm sure they have a diet that includes lots and lots of fish.
But we've knocked out 97% of the drugs coming in by water. And we are going to start now hitting...
Which was zero amount of drugs coming in by water.
Land with regard to the cartel.
Okay, so let's go to the next piece here. Okay, so I'm editing. When Sean Hannity said this guy's a narco-terrorist, which isn't true. That's just some made-up bullshit, the whole thing. Whatever they're pushing there. But the same thing with the woman who violently is trying to run over some thug, right? But she's the fucking perpetrator. And so the people in power can define who the villains are, even though, Trump is a clear villain. Like, he's just the ultimate fucking villain in this, scenario, this type of power-hungry piece of shit. But they're defining who the villains are. And they could just say, this guy's a narco-terrorist, this woman's a liberal, lesbian terrorist, right? This whole, way that they're pushing this agenda. Like, she's like the person that shot Charlie Kirk, and just make shit up, right? And they could just say, you're the villain, and then justify whatever they're doing, and there's no recourse. Like, all this stuff's about gathering information. All these events, all these things they do, it's about oftentimes gathering information, see what they can get away with, how you're going to react. And they have long since realized that people won't do shit. The average person's 100% pacified. And the truthers and the other people, I mean, everyone's just like, giving up on fighting back or whatever. And these gay little protests they do and all this other stuff that has, blowing whistles at thugs with guns who have been given the right, who've been given the, they hate you and have been given the permission to just shoot you in the fucking face and call it self-defense, right? When, you see the video, like the people's ability to interpret what they see, all these things. And so, that's where we're at, where people have been pacified and they're just going to wait till they start, where you have like a reduction in electricity or food or water or travel. I mean, how far they can push you. Like how much you'll cooperate with your own slavery, right? And you're going to cooperate quite a bit. Like, it's very clear that you're going to cooperate quite a bit. People are going to cooperate quite a bit, and there's no real recourse. And people have, most people have just sort of checked out and they're in NPC land, and they just go along with the, they're told what you go protest. You're mad now. You liberals go protest this thing. Yeah, like how is that going to help you? it's fucking not, but they don't give a shit, right? Okay, so the name of this video is President Trump reveals plans for governorship of Venezuela. Apparently he's the governor of Venezuela now, according to Fox News.
I mentioned earlier, 3 major concessions, 30 to 50 million barrels of oil. They're going to buy and purchase all their goods from America. Now they're releasing political prisoners.
Yeah.
Okay, what is your ultimate goal for the governance of Venezuela?
Prisoners that nobody thought they would ever see again are being released, yeah. And in many cases, good people is what I understand. But prisoners, nobody...
Maybe good people, we don't know. Some of them, rapists and drug dealers and mentally ill, and some of them might be good people. Remember,
I thought they'd be released. So we're going to be working with them and leadership of the country. And so far, we've been working very well. You know, we picked up the Russian freighter that trudged out there.
Well, I want to ask you about that.
Well, they had some Russian ships.
Okay, so you have no plans for the governorship of Venezuela. So the answer is none at all, right? You have zero plans for how you're going to run the country that you said you're going to run. So I don't know why they would, the title of this video is completely misleading because he's not really
guarding it, and they decided not to mess around with us. And we took that one. That's unloading the oil. But we're taking billions and billions of dollars worth of oil, and it'll be hundreds of billions of dollars. It'll be trillions of dollars. But we're going to be there till we straighten out the country. We'll see.
Well, you're taking that oil? You're just taking it? It's just you're thieving it?
How the country's doing. But we'll be running the oil. We're meeting tomorrow with all of the big oil executives. We're going to be right here in the White House.
All the big ones.
We're going to meet with the biggest oil people in the world. They're all coming here. The top 14 companies are coming here. They're going to go in. They're going to rebuild the whole oil infrastructure. They're going to spend at least $100 billion. And it's an unbelievable oil that they have and an unbelievable...
It's the best oil in the world, except for American oil.
Quality of oil and amount of oil.
When they nationalized the oil industry in Venezuela...
Okay, so his answer was, we're going to take the oil. His answer to the question, what are your plans in governance of Venezuela? And he said, well, we're going to take the oil. So here he starts talking about Iran. He probably did this interview before what happened with the ICE shooting.
A strong Iran, a respected Iran, a powerful Iran, like I guess it was at one point, a year ago, a year and a half ago, you wouldn't have been able to make peace because the other countries wouldn't have been able to have that dark cloud hanging over them. And they, by knocking out their nuclear potential, they would have had a nuclear weapon within 2 months. By knocking that,
it was 2 weeks from Netanyahu, but they weren't planning to do that. They're always just 2 weeks away, right?
I had to go in. No. Every president wanted to go in, and none of them did.
You mean you didn't want to send cargo planes of cash and other currency?
No, it's terrible. I mean, I've never seen hundreds of millions of dollars were sent in cash on Boeing 757s, beautiful Boeing 7. They opened, the cash was piled up to the ceiling.
His eyes are
I never even knew a president could do that. How do you do that?
Look, his eyes he's barely open.
You do, call the banks. They emptied out every bank in Virginia and Maryland to get that cash, and they sent it over there and gave it to them. No, we took the opposite approach, exactly the opposite approach.
We sent cash in the form of bombs that we gave to Israel. We blew our cash in our support of Israel and not Iran.
Following the protesting that is taking place all over the country of Iran
now.
Yeah,
I'm following it very
closely. And have you read that the Ayatollah Ali Khamenei has a plan B to go to Russia?
Or someplace, he's looking to go someplace.
Do you believe that Iran, you think the country is on the verge of collapsing?
Well, it could be. I mean, what they've done is they start...
Hopefully it's about to collapse, because that'll only make everything better.
In the past...
when a government collapses, it's always worse for that country. Every regime change we've seen, every time a government collapses of its own accord, things get worse. It never gets fucking better. As bad as it is, when it's often horrible, before the collapse, it gets worse once it does. And there's chaos, and they can't agree on a leader. Everybody who wishes for
the American government to collapse, like all Americans who want to get rid of all leadership or all government, and our government sucks and our leadership sucks. Of course, we're living a great lifestyle here no matter what. I mean, we have like advantages that other countries don't have. But when the government collapses, everything's fucking worse. It's never better. It's like you could be the worst fucking government in the history of the world, and that's as bad as that is. Chaos and a lack of leadership and a lack of, some kind of an authority is much worse. When there's, gang thugs, like thugs and gangs and just all this kind of criminality starts to run shit. And that's why governments come into place in the first place, right? Because then you have all these little Trumps running around. You have 10 Trumps in a city and, with no rule of law, just doing whatever the fuck they want, fighting it out. And, there's nothing gets done and there's people who aren't safe and all this kind of stuff. And this is how it's been through the history of the world.
They've started shooting the hell out of people, and all of a sudden people without any weapons whatsoever are standing there and you have machine guns gunning them down, or they take them to prisons and then hang them and kill them. So they played rough, and I said, if they do that, we're going to hit them very hard. Well, we're going to hit them hard. We're ready to do it. If they do that, we're going to hit them hard. And so far, for the most part, there's been some of it, but for the most part, they haven't. There have been people killed.
What do you mean hit him hard? You're going to bomb him again? Like, he's all over the place. He wants to grab Greenland. He wants to bomb fucking cartels in Mexico, and he wants to bomb Iran again. And ICE is beating the shit out of people on the streets of America, killing pregnant women. And, he wants to, massage Netanyahu's scrotum. I mean, he's got all kinds of goals and things he wants to do. So there's some things my wife had just sent me yesterday on Twitter.
Two of the largest private surveillance networks in America just teamed up. Amazon's Ring and Flock Safety have officially partnered. Here's what that means. The AI-powered cameras that track your car on the street can now ask your neighbor's Ring doorbell for video of you. They're connecting the street to your front door, creating one massive, searchable surveillance network for the police.
Great, that's cool. I mean, and then to add to that, we have this thing with Trump. So then there's this.
So we're into 6G now. I just 5G. I was a leader on 5G, getting that done, and now they're up to 6.
Let's do it again.
What does that do? Give you a little bit deeper view into somebody's skin? See how perfect it is. I like the cameras the old days. So they just had a nice feature. Now they cover every little. Let's see, Michael, you're in good shape. You're not gonna. But I tell you.
Joe Biden had like these squinty eyes. Joe Biden's eyes now Trump has the exact same thing. Like just very they're barely open. So they're going into 6G. Now, 4G was microwaves. So you had microwave technology. And 5G, I believe, is what's called macrowaves or millimeter waves. And millimeter waves are even more powerful. And, so what microwaves do to your food, millimeter waves are even more powerful. And they're beaming that shit around. And I know that they're putting 6G out there, but how much faster can it get? Like I didn't really notice a difference between 4G and 5G when we switched it. And a lot of this shit started happening. A lot of COVID shit started happening right when 5G became, more widespread. And like they got to replace all the towers. What's going to happen, right? Now he might just making shit up, like he's just retarded, but what waves are 6G? I'll check that in a moment. But then we got something from Erika Governor, which is totally weird. So in 2013, Erika Governor was tapped to talk about EMPs. Now, EMPs are something that could wipe out our electrical grid, solar flares being the ones that would be most not controllable. And if the solar the poles, the magnetic poles reverse themselves, the magnetic field weakens, and it allows these solar flares, these CMEs, to hit Earth. And somehow she's an expert in this shit, back when she was a beauty queen or whatever the fuck she was.
We have 5 major threats that make our grid extremely vulnerable that we've presented to congressional officials. 1 being cyber, 2 being hackers, 3 being physical threats, 4th one is solar EMP, and the 5th one is man-made EMP. So the concern that we have is that we put out this critical information, and when we go over this risk analysis, They hear what we're saying, but they don't want to take action.
Look at Erika Franze.
Take action.
Well, there are 18 critical infrastructures in the United States: food, water, transportation, communications, etc. All 17 of the others depend on electricity.
If our grid goes down, you can't cook.
This fucking cool. I mean, she was horrible back then. You think about what she's now, but even back then, look at this fucking cool.
You're not going to heat anything. You can't run any of your medical supplies. You can't talk on your phone. You can't take money out of a bank.
That's just crazy. Where's the Erika Kirk thing here? I think that was it for Erika. She was just in it for a little bit. All right, so, you know, the fuck, right? Everything just gets fucking weirder and weirder. And finally, from Thomas Massey, does your family want to pay the federal government another $5,000 per year? $500 billion across 350 million people is $4,000 for every 3.5 people. So after long and difficult negotiations with senators, congressmen, secretaries, and other political representatives, I've determined that for the good of our country, especially these very troubled, dangerous times, our military budget for the year 2027 should not be $1 trillion, but rather $1.5 trillion. So he's increasing the budget, and the budget is more, it's usually well over $1 trillion, because there's things that don't get accounted for in the budget that have to get paid for. And so sometimes it's wars, whatever, things that are off book or whatever it might be, that are not part of the budget. Military budget's always more than they say. But he wants to increase it by basically half of what it is now. This will allow to build the dream military that we have long been entitled to, and more importantly, they'll keep us safe and secure. Whenever they say we're trying to keep you safe, you know you're fucked. We're just trying to keep you safe, regardless of the foe. If it weren't for the tremendous numbers being produced by terrorists from other countries, many of which in the past have ripped off the United States at levels never seen before, I would stay at the $1 trillion number. But because of terrorists and the tremendous income that they bring, amounts being generated that would have been unthinkable in the past, especially just 1 year ago during sleepy Joe Biden's administration, the worst president in history of our country, we're able to easily hit the $1.5 trillion number while at the same time producing unparalleled military force and having the ability to, at the same time, pay down our debt and likewise pay a sustainable dividend to moderate income patriots within our country. Okay. So just patriots, or everybody, just the patriots are getting some money from these tariffs, these fucking tariffs that nobody's even talking about, even you, right? We're fucked. Like, we're so fucked right now. This guy's just lost his shit. But, you know, he's saying we can pay down the debt, but we're not paying down the debt. And so the debt is increasing at the same rate. And you add another $500 billion to the budget and whatever else he's going to do here. And, you know, they're going to loot. You know, what they do is they privatize the profits and they socialize the debt, the paying for it, right? The cost of it. And so everything is socialized through tax dollars, but then when the profit comes in, then they grab it privately. This has been the problem from all these people, from, you know, Biden to, you know, all these other people, like all the presidents and their cronies. And I said when Biden and Trump were running for president in 2020, that whoever won was going to be in charge of looting what was left of America. But I guess that was a little bit premature because Donald Trump is looting like nobody. He's like the best looter of all that shit that he says about how we're the greatest of all time. It applies to him when he's talking about being a grifter and a looter of American resources. It's getting close to dinner time here. You know, I've been on this 6G, 5G, 4G electromagnetic pollution for a long time. So, you know, I read some of the whispers about the possibility of, or not the possibility, predictions of when the poles reverse themselves. So I saw, you know, one of those nature shows, one of those PBS type of shows, where these scientists were talking about how every 200,000 years the poles reverse themselves, and it's something they can measure. There's evidence of it in the glacial ice. The ice that builds up over time. The glaciers are growing. More and more of the water gets frozen up there until there's a big melt off or ice age that gets worse, and they can trace back these times when it's happened every 200,000 years, right? And we were past due. So what that is when the north becomes south and south becomes north. And when that happens, solar flares get through, like I said earlier. And so, I'll get back to that in a bit. But then also, in the Whispers of the Brighter World messages, they talked about electromagnetic pollution, which was 5G, 4G, all this other stuff. And then NASA describes it as being bombarded. And so it just keeps on getting worse because these things get more powerful. 6G waves are the next generation radio frequencies extending into the sub-terahertz, and higher millimeter wave. It ranges from 100 gigahertz. I'm not sure what all that means in terms of how it affects you, alongside advanced centimeter waves to deliver extra high data rates, low latency, and new capabilities like high precision sensing and localization, enabling applications in holographic communication, advanced AI, and integral sensor communication, ISAC, for autonomous systems moving beyond 5G spectrum. And before that, 6G is the anticipated sixth generation of cellular network technology, expected around 2030, promising faster speeds, this is the whole thing you've heard before. AI, robotics, and sensing for applications. So this is, for things that have yet to be developed. I mean, AI is being developed, robot technology, all these other things. So, this stuff is, well, let me go read some of these Whispers of the Brighter World messages. Okay, so, these Whispers of the Brighter World messages, it's a French woman who was like a shut-in, who's not really up to date on technology, and she couldn't leave the house because she fell off a horse. She was someone who had money. Her family had money, and she was operated on, and her back was fucked up, and she was in severe pain, and she delivered 20,000 of these channeled messages, the most ever in the history of the world, according to Babaji, the second master of the system, and most of them are from him. And he talks quite extensively about electromagnetic pollution. Well, let me just read a few of these and then I'll come back to this. Here, I got to find that. Here is the first one. So she asks him, Wednesday, May 26, 1999, 10 a.m. So this is in 1990s, early 2000s, when there was no 5G, right? This is when the internet is just happening. Of course, there was satellites, and there was, like DirecTV and shit like that. And there was, the internet was just developing. Is electromagnetic pollution dangerous, Babaji? Yes, you know this very well, but it is more serious than you think. Among other things, all these means of communication that you appreciate create turbulence in the atmosphere, but also in your bodies. They affect your nervous system. Some subjects are more sensitive to them than others. All these waves that crisscross the earth disturbed many natural phenomena, the rhythms of nature, and are modified by them. This takes place insidiously without your being aware of it. More serious phenomena will occur. It is inevitable. There's a threshold that is not to be crossed, but you are in the process that is accelerating, and it's no longer possible to stop other than by a catastrophe. By themselves, human beings will never have the wisdom to turn back. On the contrary, they will run wild. Nothing will stop them. Nature, being thwarted, will itself have to take countermeasures. Human beings are playing with fire. This is nothing new, but they are on this era in possession of terrifying means. They have no respect for creation, which is so well ordered. It should not be forgotten that civilizations have disappeared because they have reached an extreme point of creative madness that was putting the universal order in peril. with the alarm stage is reached, a liberating floodgate will lift and engulf all these monstrosities. Have no fear, this is not for tomorrow. Everything is planned in the minutest detail to stop, in due course, this frenzy that has taken hold of human beings. Babaji. 5G is not just 5G, but all these types of electromagnetic frequencies. When you do something that is you're changing the environment, you're supposed to have environmental studies, environmental impact studies. This is like global policy, and people like Trump and a lot of Republicans poo-poo that, but it's fucking necessary. Anybody who is poo-pooing that is like Satan. You're like the devil because you're not. I mean, it's deep down that it's bad for not just you but the future of all species on this planet, right? And we're all energy. We're all we have electricity in our system. It helps generate our heartbeat. We have our nervous system and all these other things. We're affected by energies. People get headaches from things. People who live around power plants. My wife was telling me she saw something where the San Francisco 49ers, who have a horrific injury history this year and the past so many years, their practice facility is right near electricity plant, and they all joke about it because it's like fucking them up, right? They have these fucking horrific injury. They have the worst injury history, I think, in the last 5 years of any team. Specifically this year has been the worst. And you're affected by these. Every cop will tell you a Friday night full moon is a disaster. These types of things. Full moons affect people. And so they know that this shit affects people. Like, they're just not disclosing what it does. Like, they know some of this. They don't know all of it, right? Because they're technologically, scientifically based and not spiritual people. They're not aware of these types of things he's talking about, but they know it's doing damage, and they keep on doing it. So that must be intentional. Like, there must be some, at least some consciousness on some levels of the controlling system to do all this shit to people. Then this one, Wednesday, June 16th, 2004, 10 a.m. This planet is being harmed by men in an alarming way. Nothing stops them in their inventions, which are allegedly intended for the well-being, but are leading them to ruin. Physically, they suffer from unexplained evils that are unsettling to them, one of which is electromagnetic pollution. The picture is black on this point. Under the pretense of comfort, humans are subjected to polluting and destructing systems, which they cannot imagine since those who understand about this fail to be heard. In this context, it is not easy for them to keep a satisfactory balance of their nerves. Many harmful effects end up disturbing them. More than ever, keeping a space within where one can find oneself as far as one's true nature is concerned is a divine gift. Far from the multitude of aggressions of this world, there is an oasis of purity and beauty when it is searched for as such. From time immemorial, man is made to follow this process, the call of the soul being impossible to circumvent. Our aspirants have understood this as their lives being centered on this objective, followed the desired path. The search of the soul for being united with divinity is inextinguishable. Our way applies itself to that by supporting this process. May they all reach the goal without weakening. Our blessings accompany them, Babaji. And then this one, I just picked 3 random ones. I think I have about 20 of these saved, and there's a lot more that I just, I mean, it gets redundant at some point. This is Thursday, April 29th, 2004, 10 a.m. I didn't read these ahead of time, so there's some of these have more, whatever, let's just read it. Your heart is not weary of loving, my child. Isn't that the most important thing? On earth or elsewhere, this characteristic will follow you. Do not sink into melancholy this way. In spite of its ordeals, your life transcends the ordinary. What you are experiencing seems natural to you, but is not as accessible to everyone. Do you realize the exceptional experience you are blessed to go through? Please regain courage for the love of us. She often had problems. I have pure coyotes outside. The earth is entering into a period of renewal.
It will, in increasingly striking manner, go through stages that will be disturbing for individuals. Electromagnetic pollution is reaching a very alarming level for human beings, although such facts are neither revealed nor completely grasped by observers. This is how the system is, and it's not easy to reverse it, hence the silence on this issue. There are numerous and varied kinds of pollution that affect human beings insidiously, destabilizing them to a greater or lesser degree according to their sensitivity. Dark days will come due to all sorts of excesses for which there will be no solution. Tomorrow's society will face many other problems, including an upsurge of violence that will be significant. The critical point will have to be reached to trigger the transformation. For the time being, spirituality is the only solution. Its progress in people's hearts, imperceptibly but definite, will take place as foreseen. Therefore, all this is not negative in this aberrant but not desperate situation. God is great. His laws are rigorous but fair, and they work for good, even if they must manifest through stages that are destructive and trying for all life forms that are touched by this process. May our brothers and sisters take refuge in love and in the confidence that this is derived from it, the confidence that is derived from it, Babaji. So, there's just this thing, the electromagnetic stuff. And, it's been there on different levels for me. Some of it has to do with the spiritual teaching. Some of it has to do with my own personal experience. And then some of these other things that I've learned about over the years. And, it's something that's there and it's invisible, and you can't even get people to respond or change based on what they can see, right? So nobody wants to change. And like he said in that first one, the only thing that's going to stop this is catastrophes, like collapse of civilization. And I've never been more sure of that. I've always believed it, but now it's more obvious to me than ever. Okay, so let me finish this up here, and I'll continue on tomorrow. Things are going south, like things are in terms of our material world. It's imploding around us. And I always talk about, people are the barometer. If your people are functioning and your people are getting better and evolving and changing for the better, right? If people are, something that's inspirational and their connection to divinity and their expanding consciousness, and it doesn't matter what kind of piece of shit you are if you're getting better. Like if you're, and not getting better for 10 minutes, for a year because your wife kicked you out or some kind of shit like this. There was a woman who watched this YouTube channel who drove by me on a bike and recognized me. When my family and I returned from India, and we're in a park in, they have this great park around these arroyos, where this water flows near Las Vegas in Henderson, Nevada, which is just a suburb of Las Vegas. And we didn't connect till I was moving out. We met one time at the same park, and she was going through a divorce. And her husband had, she was using a lot of drugs, and her husband was like a real creep, and he would have her videotape her having sex with other men. She was probably in her 40s, they had kids or whatever. And she was going through a divorce with him. And then he was all apologetic and, begging her to come back and all this kind of shit. Like we had some phone conversations afterwards. She had moved, like somewhere to New Mexico or something with her mom. And, first he was very apologetic, but she said he did this. He'd be better for 6 months, and then he would get, creepy. And then he threatened to send these videos to her mom, right? If she didn't come back, like he started to, And so people, have these moments where they're freaked out and they're like willing to change. And they'll change their behaviors for a little bit, but they don't change what's inside of them. Rehabilitation, prison, these things, they're supposed to be motivational type of, in theory, they're supposed to be motivational to get people to want to change. And people get warnings all the time, and inspiration and, connection to divinity and dreams. And, it's right there in front of them, and they were just not willing to adapt and change. I covered this in a video, a couple videos ago, 2 videos, and people are just getting stupider and weaker and more addicted and more locked in their personalities and less willing to, rise up to something better than they are. So, if you're a piece of shit, that's your starting point. There's a saying in the Sajmark system: "My beginning is mine, and may my ending be like his." And the his can be God, or the his can be, evolved soul, someone who has mastered themselves, right? Some example, like your ending for Christians would be like Jesus's. You are what you are today, but can you be like Jesus by the end, right? Can you be like Krishna by the end? This kind of thing. Like there's examples of human beings that have evolved to higher levels of consciousness, and the people that you aspire you. And so you're a piece of shit now, but what are you going to be at the end of your story? Like, what are you going to do to, evolve out of that? And so people just aren't doing that. And we can see it. People are going the wrong fucking direction. Things are getting worse with them and then the planet. And so it should be pretty obvious to everybody, but nobody wants to fucking change. And everybody's hoping somebody else will change first. And like I say this all the time, the truth community is a joke because, this premise that we're there, like the information wars that shill Alex Jones is pushing has become sort of the mindset. Who are you going to wake up that's going to be better than you? Like, who are you going to wake up? The sheeple that are resisting the shit out of this, you think that when they wake up, they're going to immediately be more, they're going to come up with solutions to changing the situation that you can't come up with. And they're going to be more activated and more passionate about changing the world and these things, right? So, that's not an answer. Waking people up to what, a demonic system isn't the answer. It's, people realizing that they're a piece of shit and they got to do better themselves. And that, you can only change yourself. You can't change other people. You can't change the system. But by changing yourself, and, the biggest thing is connecting to the divinity within you, and then having a relationship with God on a, moment-to-moment basis is the way to go. And that's just, people are not willing to do that. Like, even religious people, they're, they want to outsource everything. So, that's why we're fucked. Anyways, let me wrap this one up here. Only spirituality will save this world. It's Parvado, definitely born from the Apocalypse and the Ascension. Everyone have a blessed day and be grateful.